We're back.
Episode 4, baby.
I'm so excited for this freaking episode. Okay.
The long-awaited episode that, honestly, we kind of started this podcast for.
So, just a little background on this little episode. We've actually been trying to do this review for a really, really long time. And I know that there have been actually a few people that have been waiting for us to do this review because them knowing us, we're the biggest Spider-Man fans on the planet.
We really are. I mean, if you can't tell by just about every shoot, you can look around this whole frame that you're looking at.
Look at the shirt.
You got Spider-Man everywhere. I got Spider-Man socks. He's got Spider-Man shoes, Spider-Man shirt. We got Spider-Man everywhere. So
yeah, for those who can't see it right now, and we do recommend just go watch our videos on YouTube at just shouting out. Let's Talk Geek for a sec. That's your channel name. But we're geared out up here.
We are geared out.
We really wanted to aim for the perspective of showing us how much of fans we really are. And again, we do understand there are people that have more merch than us and all this other stuff in advertisement or whatever. But, we use what we got.
We do.
So, before we actually get into this little review, we do just want to say episode 3 finally out.
Episode 3 is out by this time. To us right now, it's out. Just got put up. The YouTube video is coming out very soon. It should be up definitely by the time you guys are hearing this one.
Give a big shout out to my roommate Josh.
Yes, shout out to Josh for being our special guest on the last episode. Brought some good moments to that one. He
really was the light of the show on that one. So commentary wise, but also footage wise, he took the show away.
Watch the YouTube for that one when we have it. Please go watch that video, please.
So again, we want to say thank you to our supporters as well, because without y'all, we really wouldn't be doing this. We are doing this for fun. Mm-hmm. We love doing what we love to do, but y'all give us motivation to keep on going because we actually, like to hear what people think of our stuff or the feedback.
We have had some very good feedback so far, so thank you guys for those of you that have listened, family, friends, everyone. Thank you for what you've listened to already. Thank you for the feedback. Everything's been going great, and I'm really excited. I think we're both really excited for where this is going to be heading.
Exactly. So basically just to the future, and we hope that, fans now and fans later on can join us onto this great journey. Mm-hmm. We do want to say that we're finally at the point of our podcast where we're actually starting to do just set categories now.
Right.
As you can tell from our previous, we're just giving you the little snippets of what we kind of want the podcast leading up to.
Kind of broad subjects, and now we can
actually focus on the main stuff.
We can break it down into a single topic.
And and here we are now, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Spider-Man No Way Home.
You could say it was...
What a movie.
I say the blockbuster of the year, but also not even just a blockbuster, but just movie in general of the year, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, even for coming out at the end of 2020, yeah.
You really
definitely movie of the year.
So we just want to let you know how this is basically going to go because we do understand there are people out there that have not seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, what are you doing?
Yeah,
go out there. It's still in theaters. I don't know how much longer they're going to stay in there.
It should be coming out to digital, I think, at the end of this month. So I guess if you haven't seen it by now, you're probably waiting for that. But there's no way you've been able to avoid any kind of spoilers by this point.
Everything is out.
Yeah, everything's out.
I say me and Rennie even took to the extent where, little feedback, just because we wanted to do it, we did a Spider-Man marathon. The week that
yes, we did.
Spider-Man No Way Home was coming out, we watched the Raimi trilogy.
On a Monday.
Monday.
We started on a Monday, watched the whole Raimi trilogy that Monday.
And then we watched...
Tuesday was...
Andrew
Garfield.
Wednesday was Tom.
Tom's.
And we actually did... see, since it was Tom's movie, we kind of wanted to include... Not even if it wasn't a Spider-Man-esque movie. We saw clips of Civil War.
We watched Spider-Man highlights of Civil War.
And then we watched Homecoming. And then we went to a little bit of Infinity War.
Yes.
I think we saw him get the Iron Spider suit, or MCU's Iron Spider suit.
You have to see it.
And And I don't think we didn't want to see the death scene because I felt like we would have gotten a little too emotional right there. But
especially with how late it was.
Yeah.
We were watching those late.
So
we
we
were
kind of
tired.
skipped over that. We didn't even go into like the entrance of Endgame with Tom Holland coming there. We just didn't think it was that equivalent. But then we went to Far From Home, and then got some well-needed shut-eye.
We did, yes.
To watch
Rested.
this movie. We watched it on a Thursday at 3.
3, so we were like one of the first people.
Exactly in
see
the
it.
world. Well, I mean, okay,
well, it was
in America.
I forget where. Yeah, I forget where overseas it was.
England,
it had,
UK. The UK.
It had been out for what, a day or two?
Yeah,
already?
it was a day. So we even went to the extent of giving. I got rid of all social media.
Yeah.
Just because of the UK. And if anyone from the UK is watching this, I know you guys are some greedy ass motherfuckers out there that would try and spoil this for us Americans. But no hate to y'all. Just if y'all did that, probably would have gotten some conflict right there.
Yeah, for real. So thank you for keeping all that low key.
Exactly. I mean,
and if you've seen it, you know what we're talking about.
I think honestly, like I know that for Endgame, a lot of spoiler stuff did come out.
Oh yeah.
But like, I felt like this, people really kept it kind of ish low key until like 2 or 3 days afterwards, where everything just kind of piled on. Because I think, and Brandon, of course, he will definitely agree with me, but I hope the audience agrees with me as well. But Spider-Man is the icon of Marvel, right. And I feel like even if you're not a big Marvel fan, and you know you're not really into any of these other superheroes, everyone really thinks of Spider-Man. You know, like he's the true hero that's most relatable to everyone, and I think once they finally got, I guess, to a key point down of who would be like a great match for the MCU, they chose Tom Holland, which in the comics is Peter's a really young, like
he's very accurate.
Very
accurate.
I think
Stan Lee said that himself. That
Stanley said
Tom Holland,
that's Spider-Man.
That's Spider-Man.
And then I think it also makes it really great for the people that you could still relate to a kid sense, him being that young, us being in a young age too, going through his types of personal problems, all that stuff.
Yes.
So they really nailed it with that. And overall, I've seen other films of Tom Holland, and even like in this role, he's an amazing actor.
He is.
He's great in everything for being, you know, from the UK and doing his American accents. There's even
he's so good at just having an American accent, just talking like I guess English. I mean, they're both English.
Yeah.
But American English.
And
he's so good.
You can kind of tell in different movies where he switches his kind of American accent, but like you can tell that like in Spider-Man, the Brooklyn-esque accent-ish, you can definitely tell that it's there, and that makes it really, really unique,
authentic.
Yeah,
and it makes it seem more authentic. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that movie was.
Wow.
Talk about legacy, with that movie being.
That being the second Spider-Man movie that actually came out with a trilogy.
Right.
Because we got it with Raimi and then we didn't get it with Andrew. But sadly, you know this movie came overall. But before we start up talking about basically just getting into everything, we just do want to say that we're gonna start the show off just by saying a movie overall, without any spoilers first, because we do want to get into the spoilers, of course. Yeah. But just to, you know, for people that haven't watched it, we're gonna just go over like if you were to go watch it, how good of a movie are you hearing it from the sense of us? So, but then halfway through, spoiler alert, we will be saying stuff. So if this podcast is not for you, then go watch it, come back, listen to the podcast. Yeah. So, Brandon, overall, how would you say that it was as a movie aspect? Not a Marvel.
Like standalone? Like
standalone.
If we were separating it from the MCU universe as a standalone movie, I think it's pretty good. It's kind of I would say as a standalone movie, and I hate to kind of sidetrack even though this is off topic, I do think that the best movie that's been able to be executed as a standalone movie is Black Widow. Black Widow, I think, as a standalone movie, if you take it out of MCU, that one did very good. I think this movie, I think it was pretty close actually to being up there as
As a
As far as
standalone?
if you separate it from the whole MCU timeline, you take away Avengers and everything, and you look at it as if you look at it as a Spider-Man movie, it did excellent.
And that's actually really, I guess you could say, really rare whenever it comes to movies like this, because a lot of these MCU movies need to be connected.
They have to be.
Like, and you can't really like do that with a lot. So for, I guess, you saying that comes into a shock to me, honestly. I
think it could have been executed better. It
No,
definitely could have been a better standalone if you look at it that way. Yeah.
But I'm just looking at this as just like a regular like esque movie, right? And I guess if you kind of like cut like the first part of the movie out,
yes,
and you just hop into like just wherever it goes and just all this other stuff, then I say it was a pretty well thought out movie.
Solid all throughout.
Yeah,
it'll keep you.
As a superhero movie, now I'm looking at it as a standalone movie. I'm talking about like plot wise. I hope you agree with me, but there were a little bit of stuff that didn't really make sense at the time. But like whenever we were watching it, we weren't really watching it for that.
Yeah, no.
Looking at it now, you kind of catch like a few things here and there
where you're like that doesn't really make sense, but like they had to do it to further the story. Like there's a lot of things that could have gone a different way if it was in the real world by now. You'd think someone would have, I guess, the common sense to execute that plan a little differently. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, again,
it's a movie.
It's
at the end of the day, it's a movie.
So I mean, there's nothing we should really like start really getting riled up about it. As a superhero movie, though, my favorite superhero.
It's a 10 out of 10.
That's a 10 out of 10 right there.
Movie.
That's a perfect superhero movie.
That's a perfect superhero movie. It really is.
Everything, and
you see major character development in Tom Holland.
Holy shit,
like,
Tom Holland,
from
Tom Holland
crazy, what he was in the MCU, what he was being name called, and everything, how he was looked at, being introduced in the MCU, and with his first two movies, he was perceived by Marvel fans a certain way that they didn't like. But after this movie, I think it changed a lot of people's perspectives, especially looking towards hopefully Tom Holland's future as Spider-Man. It gave them it's something that now they want to look forward to, whereas I think before this movie, people probably couldn't care less if Tom Holland continued as Spider-Man.
If you actually look at it a certain way, again, I'm not including like Infinity War, Endgame, Civil War, all this stuff, right. But Homecoming, we see like basically a child Peter Parker.
Right.
Far From Home, he's in this stage because after
he's
Tony
like a
starts
little teen Peter Parker.
He's right in the like that little again, but like
tween.
The thing is that like he's still a teenager in all these three movies, and so but like Far From Home is where like he's kind of just like trying to find his way back, trying to figure out like how am I gonna grow, whatever. This movie made him to a fucking adult.
Mm-hmm.
He became a grown ass man.
He had to grow up for this movie. There was just everything that went on in that movie. He had to grow up to face the challenge of how he was gonna deal with things that happened, like how he was gonna. Well, if you watch the movie, you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
How he reacted to things, he had to handle it better than he would have in his first two movies. Because in his first two movies, especially in Homecoming, he probably would have been a lot more sloppy with how he handled it. Mm-hmm. Far From Home, he's still a little inexperienced, but he could probably do it. But this one, he really stepped up in maturity wise.
How would you say the character development for Zendaya playing as MJ and what is Ned? Do you know what Ned's name is in real life?
Oh, the actor? No,
I always forget. And I follow him on Instagram.
Really?
Yeah, he actually posts some funny stuff. He's been on like a few little shows. But let me see.
Ned Leeds.
Jacob
Batalon?
Yeah.
I think that's
Jacob Batalon.
If I butchered that name, if you know how to pronounce it, I'm sorry. That's just how I always say it.
We see that like Ned is like the same character. Like, honestly, like
he's been pretty steady throughout now. Zendaya's character.
It's a great character though.
He is.
Ned is a really funny character.
Guy in the chair guy. Yeah. Zendaya's character had some growth. Honestly, like completely different person than she introduced in Homecoming. She's
a weirdo.
Introduced as like she seems like this just weird goth. Like you can tell in her
And
face she looks very gloomy.
We don't know that is MJ in the first like Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, you don't really hear that until
like, the end.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Okay. I'm sorry if you haven't seen Homecoming. I'm sorry.
If you haven't seen, bro, why? Like, dude, come on.
But turn this off and go watch that right now, and then come back. Watch Homecoming.
Exactly. And then we go into Far From Home, where she, I guess, is not as. No. We see like a little. Would you say like a quirkier side to her, because she notices that Peter is noticing her, and where like she notices Peter more, and she like starts acting like a little like she got the girly of her comes out, you know.
I think she always kind of liked Peter to a certain degree, but I think when she realized like, oh, Peter's starting to notice me, is when like she was getting a little more girly, but like in the first one in Homecoming, she says it at one point like when they're talking about how Peter quit all of his classes, and she's the one that says, oh, he already quit marching band and whatever else
and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's like, I don't like him.
Yeah, exactly.
But she was paying attention. Yeah, she was paying attention to him for some reason. So
yeah, so whenever that would happen, we would and then they would finally connect at the end. They would finally get that little kiss at the end of Far From Home.
Woo!
And then goddamn, MJ and Peter, bro, come on. And then after that, in the movie, we see that they're finally in a relationship, but they do have to deal with the difficulties again. Spoiler for Far From Home.
That his
identity
is revealed. So now the world knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and that's kind of where No Way Home.
It starts off
picks up
there
immediately from where Far From
Home. But before we get into that,
sorry.
So trailer wise, going into the movie, because we already knew that the way that Far From Home ended, everyone had the speculation of that's what the next movie's going to lead into, is about his identity. Right. That's all we got at the end of Far From Home, was thinking that like, his identity's out. Mm-hmm. No one else knew what else was planned or whatever, and then we got the first trailer. And
what did we?
So it comes in with everyone knowing Peter is Spider-Man, and showing like difficulties and like the hardships of like, he's getting like accused for murder, Mysterio, and the Stark nukes and all that stuff. Keep on going into the trailer. We see that Doctor Strange is in the movie. Yeah. And we're just like, holy shit, like this is a little bit of a weird mixture. Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, what's going to happen here? Yeah. See it in the trailer that Peter
is going to Doctor Strange for help.
Yeah. For help to reset everything, to kind of make sure that people don't know his identity anymore or whatever. Yeah. And then I was just like, when I seen that first part, I was like, oh, wow, this is really different. I was like, this would be kind of weird to see it, but even in the trailer, we see the spell fucks up. Yeah. Spell fucks up.
You see something goes wrong.
And he's trying to figure out, and then that's where, like that's the kind of like the first, well, before that, we already knew that Spider-Man was coming out, but we just didn't have a name for it, but we knew that a Doctor Strange movie was coming out after Spider-Man, Multiverse of Madness.
It was supposed to be before. It was originally Doctor Strange was supposed to come out before Spider-Man, and then I think because of COVID they delayed Doctor Strange. Yeah, but they continued with Spider-Man.
So whenever that had happened and they had the transition of that, then they said that like, maybe now they're both connected or something like this. Multiverse is finally being added to the universe. Mm-hmm. This could open up a whole bunch of possibilities for a lot of things in the MCU. And what I mean by that is franchise-wise. I'm talking about like Sony, Fox, all this stuff. Even though Disney owns all this stuff, there's a whole bunch of possibilities for this to happen. Mm-hmm. And whenever we see throughout the trailer, chopping up, like they're talking about multiverse this, we see Doctor Strange and Spider-Man kind of like battle out just for like no reason, right? We don't know why they're battling. It just looks weird. Get towards the end of the trailer.
That's when we get
guest
appearances.
Dr. Octopus.
Doc Ock.
But
not only
Doc Ock, but Sam Raimi's Doc Ock.
Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock.
When I saw that, I literally dropped my phone. I didn't.
I know you were crying.
No,
you shed a tear for that.
No, I was like, holy crap! Like what's going on. But we also saw like glimpses of other villains here and there. But the main one that we got a clear shot of was him.
Because you saw the arm come out.
And we just saw that, like, holy shit, like what's gonna happen with this movie, multiverse type stuff. And then we got another second trailer, and they show all the other villains that are gonna be there. We don't really,
You can't really tell Sandman's in there.
No, towards the end you do. You see his face towards the end.
In the second one?
Yeah.
In the first one you can't.
The first one you can't.
It's just like,
so then we announced that they show us Sandman.
You see electricity in the first one though.
Electricity a little bit in the first one, but then we finally get a full glimpse of Jamie Foxx, and he's not blue.
He's not blue.
He's not blue. So
now,
we're seeing villains from Raimi and the Andrew universe, but where's Toby and Andrew?
Mm-hmm. We
don't see them in the trailer at all. So there were speculations to be like, okay, if this shit's going down, they have to be in the movie. You know,
you can't just bring in those villains without.
Exactly. So that was everyone's speculations, and then of course the biggest villain of Spider-Man's whole career, Green Goblin. At none other as Willem Dafoe. Wow, I love him.
Talk about a performance.
But so we had Lizard, Electro, Sandman, Dr. Octopus, and Green Goblin appear up, and we see that kind of in the sense that like, oh, this is like the big battle, but it's just focused on Tom Holland, of course, going up against him, and we don't see any sense of Toby or Andrew, and it gets like to the point where it's just like a lot of people were really thinking like, holy shit, it's just gonna be Tom in this movie, and I guess people were just trying to like they either just trying to get like what's really gonna happen, and no way
a lot of theories out there,
a lot of real theories, but that would lead us to exactly what we're gonna talk about now. And again, if you made it this far into the podcast, this is your final chance. This is it. We're about to unleash everything from the movie. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So as we see, we get off like right after Far From Home, of course. Like, it even starts like exactly the fucking scene too. That's how like the credits from Marvel, like showing like Marvel Studios, all this stuff. Oh, what the people will get that.
Yeah.
Shit goes crazy. There's a different range of emotions, or not emotions, different range of reactions in the beginning of that sequence. We see people that are, I hate Spider-Man. There's people that are like, oh, cool, Peter's Spider-Man. And you see like,
and then you see people that are like, oh, it's just a kid. It's a young kid. And also before that, he was just swinging with MJ. So now people are looking at MJ. You hear somebody say, "Are you Spider-Man's girlfriend?" And like,
so they start getting into that. But we also see that like there's even a point where like I think Flash is looking through like TikTok or something.
Yeah, and then like, he sees
that he's like, that was kind of a funny scene.
That was pretty funny.
So everything just goes completely hectic, which is holy crap crazy.
Just when he was kind of going normal. I mean, he was just going on a regular date with MJ.
Yeah,
and then he just has to see breaking news, and then boom, there goes his entire world. I don't think that really gets discussed enough, like how just sudden that was from the ending of Far From Home, like.
And I think do you remember the dude that helped Mysterio with the drones, the glasses dude,
the one that was in Iron Man?
Yeah.
I don't know.
At the end, a lot of people towards that movie, whenever he got a flash drive at the end of it.
I do want to know what happened with that.
But I think people are kind of like overreacting with that, because I don't think that he actually took drones. I think the flash drive that he took was supposed to be the hologram that they posted of Mysterio. So I think he's the one that leaked it.
Oh no! Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so he's the one that leaked it. So, but I think the whole like drone.
That makes sense. The drones that were probably on the computer is probably the drones that recorded.
Yeah.
Mysterio like acting that.
The fucking flash drive and all that. So I mean, he was able to put that in, and finally gets back to his apartment, and we're in the middle of Happy and Aunt May breaking up.
So there's a lot of things going on.
No, exactly. It's
many different
big jump up in the movie, and they come down, and Peter's trying to like grab up, and then finally the big news is revealed that like everyone knows who fuck Spider-Man is.
Yeah.
It becomes like a really big deal, which is kind of weird because when it comes to secret identities, we kind of see that like a lot of people know who these superheroes are in the MCU, right? And they don't really trip about it.
Because no one besides Spider-Man really wears a mask a mask that they need to hide from. Like
exactly. I mean, we see Captain America wear it, but like, how often does fucking
they all
helmet come
know. Yeah, they all know who he is. They know Steve Rogers.
Steve Rogers.
They know who he is.
I mean, they made a fucking. Well, I mean, if you watched, I don't know if you guys saw, but there's like a Rogers play where like they come. So they base it off of him and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, like they know what Hawkeye and Black Widow look like, and I'm pretty sure they know. They know literally everybody. Oh, and even at Endgame, they notice that like, oh, Hulk, like like that little kitchen scene. So like they know who everyone is, Thor and all this stuff. So like it's kind of weird.
I think it was just Spider-Man.
It was just Spider-Man that didn't know that. Even like they even knew Black Panther's identity as King T'Challa. Rest in peace to
R.I.P.
Chadwick. But like it's kind of weird if we're in a cinematic movie like this that only his identity is the big one, Like, why was his the biggest one? Because we look at an MCU movie perspective, all these other superheroes are still bigger than Spider-Man. So why was he such a big deal, I
think because it was a secret for so long. No one else really kept a secret identity or anything like that. Because, again, everyone just knew who they were. Everyone knows Black Widow is Natasha. Everyone knows Captain America is Steve Rogers. No one knew who Spider-Man was until... Especially, I think it has to do with how the footage was obviously sent to Jameson.
And we know
how Jameson is towards Spider-Man, so he, of course, inflated the shit out of it.
He's a menace.
Yeah.
Where's picture of Spider-Man? That was my little J.K. Simmons reaction right there. I hope I know the part.
He killed that. But like, if that had been, for instance, whatever news stations are in that universe, if that had been sent to any of them, it probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But the way Jameson reacted to it, also the way Jameson was just painting Spider-Man in general. So now they're like, damn, well, I thought Spider-Man was a hero, but he killed Mysterio? That's crazy. Well, is he really a hero, or is he the villain now? Was Mysterio the hero the whole time, like everyone thought? And then Jameson, of course, has to inflate the whole story of him being the murderer, the menace.
Yeah, exactly, and then we get, I guess, the FBI involved.
Which is why I think when his identity got revealed, I think that's why he got so much hate. Right off the bat,
just a murder.
Yeah, just
because. So you know what? That makes a little bit more sense now. I guess I didn't really see it as that point, but then he gets interrogated. Everyone like his aunt, MJ, Ned, Happy gets interrogated. All this stuff about just like they're really trying to
being associated. Yeah,
they're trying to really pin it on him, which is
they really want Spider-Man to be some kind of villain, and for what reason? Who knows?
Again, like especially for like we said, he's still at the beginning of the movie, this is fresh from Far From Home, so he's still in that, like, I guess, growing stage of... I think he finally... he already had his reminiscent stage of Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. So now it kind of just blocked out where he thought, okay, he's calm, had my grief, but then he just gets hit with another, like, right hook, like, right off the bat.
Basically.
So, and then we, later on, like, we just keep on going through, and he's just seeing the news and all that stuff. When we get to a point where we have a very well-weighted person come into the universe that a lot of people didn't think was actually going to come in, but there were rumors way before like the movie came out and theories saying that he was going to come into the universe, and we had gotten Matt Murdock, but not just any Matt Murdock. Charlie Cox from the Netflix series of Daredevil.
That's crazy.
I like to say that in our whenever we went to go watch it the first time, a lot of people went crazy for that motherfucker. Bro.
As soon as, because they just showed the cane.
The cane,
you
bro.
see the cane. As soon as you see the cane, oh my god,
crazy. And that's really weird because like a lot of people don't really watch like the Netflix series like that, But
I think Daredevil was the most watched.
No,
out of all of them for sure.
It was definitely that, and but like we had a crowd full of real Marvel fans, and again, like we've seen videos of
there was other theaters.
There was really that went crazy, or some theaters that didn't like go up with stuff. Again, like, but I think me and Brandon actually got like the perfect one.
We got a good one because they weren't too loud like that. They weren't too crazy. But you can tell that everyone in that theater felt it. They understood it. they understood that.
It was probably like a little a good 2-second oh yeah, and then
like
they got
cheering,
back. And even maybe less than 2 seconds, honestly, because I think they had so much respect that they wanted everyone to get the experience to watch the movie.
It was more shock, I think, because that was one that people weren't expecting whatsoever.
So again, damn, who knew that he was going to be in there? I know I have heard rumors from the past saying that
I do remember the day before Kevin Feige had said something about Charlie Cox.
That he would love Charlie Cox to play his Daredevil in
and I
MCU.
think I remember him saying if we do, he said if you ever see Charlie Cox in anything, he is Daredevil. That's all that we knew. So we were like, oh.
Okay, so he'll probably.
Because that was also they had just I think the Netflix contracts had just ended. Marvel, I think officially kind of got those characters, or Disney officially got those characters. So yeah, that's what Kevin Feige said, and then sure enough, we see him
pop up. And the weird thing was, and again, I don't think you haven't seen the Hawkeye series, right?
I have not.
So here's another little spoiler coming through. So on episode 5 of Hawkeye, and this happened. Episode 5 came out the week that Spider-Man was coming out. So literally, whenever I was watching it,
it was the day before, right?
Wednesday. Yeah, it was literally the day before. So I watched Hawkeye, and then I watched Spider-Man the next day. And again, this is during the time of our whole little Spider-Man marathon that we were doing. But the week before I watched it, they said that someone from Marvel, it might have been Kevin Feige or someone from Marvel Studios, said that episode 5 of Hawkeye will change the MCU as we know it forever. And I was like, oh shit, this is going to be a big episode, right? So I remember just going on my day and I was like, oh shit, the Hawkeye episode came out, right? So I was watching it, and I kept on going through. Again, Hawkeye, just side note, Hawkeye, very solid show. I really recommend it. It's nothing too high, never too low. It's just right in the middle, so it's really good. But this episode really took the cake for excitement. Going through Hawkeye battle, yada yada yada. Towards the end, we see that there's a main villain character that came in, and they mentioned him saying "Oh, the big guy, the boss, or whatever," and all this stuff. And I'm trying to figure out who the fuck, what. Honestly, in my mind, I was like, what bullshit character are they gonna put in this show, right? And towards the end, they're like, hey, who's this to Hawkeye? Hawkeye's like, that's the guy I've been worried about this whole time. That's the Kingpin. And bro, once that shit happened, I flipped my shit, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking, bro, if Kingpin's in here, Daredevil has to be coming in sometime soon. Little did I know, the day after,
literally the next
Daredevil would be in the movie. So what does that really mean for MCU universes in general? I mean, okay. Spoiler alert again, Brandon. Episode 6, Kingpin gets shot and is presumed dead.
That's the finale, right?
Yeah, that's the finale.
That's all I was. I mean, I was keeping up with Hawkeye. I just wasn't watching it myself. But that's all I was hearing was Kingpin just
So that kind of deserves what the fuck or whatever. But then we're trying to figure out are we getting the same Daredevil / Kingpin from the Netflix series, or are we getting a different interpretation of them, but just the same actors?
From what I've heard, it seems like how Kingpin already has been in Hawkeye, it seems like it's going to be different. I know the Kingpin in the Daredevil series likes to go on monologues. He seems like a very deep person, and from what I've heard, at least, in the Disney show, he doesn't really come off like that. He doesn't come off talking all sophisticated,
kind of in the
he doesn't go off on rants,
a little bit.
But then he kind of just
mellows down. But maybe they will.
Maybe they will go back to how he was.
Honestly, in my opinion, I think they'll make the shows canon in the universe. I honestly do think, because if they end up trying to do it, if anything, they'll just.
They might mess it up. They might make a lot of people mad.
Yeah, but I think they'll open up the show again. Just be like, oh, we're bringing Daredevil back season 4, MCU style or whatever. But I mean, that's enough for Daredevil. We'll see what the future Daredevil really brings for us.
Yeah, I think the MCU is gonna split in 2 different directions. I think they're gonna go Mystic, and then they're gonna go Street. And
I would love to actually see that.
I would love to see that.
Honestly, I would think that Spider-Man's kind of street too, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Very, very
that's
street.
why Kingpin's gonna do Kingpin. Then you're gonna get. We better get that classic team up.
Daredevil and Spider-Man. We better, because I think that was like a little hint to it. Honestly, bringing him in or whatever, and he's a pretty good lawyer, right?
You could say that.
You can say he's a pretty good lawyer.
Might be a great lawyer.
Whenever that break went through the window and he caught it, a lot of people.
That's
were
when that's when it really
like
hit everyone that he is Daredevil.
Yeah,
there might have been a little bit of doubt, like, oh, maybe he's just a blind lawyer.
And then I know that for some people that there are people that haven't watched Netflix, so whenever I guess they were just like, oh.
They saw that and they said, "Yo, this blind guy just caught a brick that was going through the window."
Yeah,
and it's like,
which I think if you're at least a somewhat of a fan, you should. I think Daredevil's kind of like a renowned hero. I think people should know that he's a.
I want to say more people know the name. They might not
know who he
they might not know that he's blind and he has to use his senses. Yeah.
So, but that happened. That was a great part of the movie. Then we kind of see that the charges get dropped because of Matt. Shout out Matt.
Shout out. Great lawyer.
But the only main problem about it now is the secret identity still out. So the whole murder situation's out of the possibility, and they got rid of that really quick in the movie.
Yeah, that's
I guess
that's one of those plot things where it's like, how did everyone just?
And I don't think a lot of people really caught that too, because I think that hype of Matt kind of just took it out of perspective that they were really focused that he was there and stuff like that.
Like, hey, charges dropped, but here's
Daredevil. But whenever they did that, we see a little bit more of struggle because we're seeing the point where Peter goes to school now.
Yeah. And
he's been basically they have a whole bunch of fans, or he said people that give him hate or whatever and all that. And
Hannibal.
He really, Hannibal really hates him. I love Hannibal, but I don't like his character in this movie.
Mysterio was right. Love that part.
But then we see that he kind of, he gets away from everything just to kind of relax and all that stuff. And his plans are me, MJ, and Ned, we're getting ready for college. Everything's gonna be different once we go to college. It'll be all good. The main thing is to get into MIT. They really want to go to Boston. Shout out Boston.
Shout out Boston. Shout out MIT.
We get it. Marvel is all New York, but Boston's where I'm at.
Fair.
But then we see this whole sequence scene where all these college offer letters get in for Peter, and he gets declined.
Rejected. Yeah.
Oh yeah, rejected and all this stuff. And then the big one, MIT. He meets up with MJ and Ned, and once they look at it, none of them get in. Absolutely.
That was tough.
That was a real shock, and
I thought at least one of them was gonna get in, but then they'd face I can't do it because you guys aren't doing it.
Yeah. I thought it would have been like that, but everyone got rejected just because of Peter. What I really is doing,
just because of just having association with Peter and what Peter is associated with. It's just.
What's really funny is that the little scene whenever Flash comes in, he's like, "Oh, I got into MIT, whatever." He's like, "Oh, y'all didn't do it." He's like, "No, we didn't get in because we actually
we're friends with Spider-Man."
And he kind of just
he said,
and what's really funny is that I guess they kind of they don't really push it as much as we see that Flash is like, "Oh, I love Spider-Man." We see it in Far From Home too, and we kind of see it in this movie as well. But in the comics also, it's kind of accurate because in the comics, Flash is actually the head of the fan page of Spider-Man. And you see, he's the biggest Spider-Man fan, so I guess I kind of mixed it in just a bit, which is kind of funny. That happens, and after he does that, Peter says this, it's this stupid little, as you can see, it's this little stupid fucking witch, wizard type thing.
Duck?
Yeah.
It was the duck. The Doctor Strange duck, yeah.
Whenever that happened, he was like...
He said, yo?
I think I know someone.
He said, hold up.
They go over, he talks to he goes to meet Doctor Strange, it's all fucking snowy, something happened, not quantum, but fucking the little gap where they bridged in, saying the snow flint over and some shit or whatever.
He opened the doorway to some...
And then beholds Doctor
Strange coming down the stairs and then slips. And then he slips on the snow.
And then we see Wong as well. and we saw Wong and Shang-Chi too.
That was crazy.
That was crazy.
That was really unexpected. Fighting Abomination.
And then we see Wong again, and we noticed that he was going to be in the movie because of the trailers also, but we get a little bit more dialogue or whatever, and
we also see a completely different scene than what we saw in the trailer.
Exactly. There was in a
it
lot
was
of the movie, we kind of just like saw it go up.
But specifically that part, because in the trailer, Wong said, "Don't cast that spell," but then in the movie, he said, just don't put my name on it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're gonna cast it, I ain't got nothing. I'm dipping.
Which kind of just like changes the perspective of everyone's theories of the movie, you know?
Exactly.
Because a lot of people were saying like, if Doctor Strange is Sorcerer Supreme, why the fuck would he do this?
Why would he go against Wong? Like why?
But then we also see that Wong is actually Sorcerer Supreme.
That was pretty funny.
That was pretty funny because
by
default, Wong is Sorcerer Supreme.
Because I blipped for classic.
That was funny. And that's a really funny scene. I like that. So then after that, we see that like Doctor Strange has done a forgetting spell on Wong before. So he's like, "Oh, if I've done this before, it should work again.
I can do it again."
And he's doing this to help Peter because we see that like, oh, my aunt's going through this. She's already been through a lot. My friends, they're not getting into college, and it's just really hitting everyone hard. And especially like my life screwed up everyone else's lives. Which is a real, like he's trying to do everything he can to really fix the situation. Mm-hmm. He's putting others in front of himself. Yeah. And that's also, as a human being, as a superhero you do that, but he's doing this as a human being.
Yeah, he's not even...
He's
doing that as Peter Parker. He's just trying to protect his friends.
So, whenever he does that, they go down to their little vault where they start, like, casting the spell or whatever, and then Peter, as the kid he is asking for too much.
Has to be,
has to go, he's like, oh, everyone's gonna forget. He's like, the little thing that.
Wait, did you say everyone?
He's like, nice knowing you. And he's like, what do you mean by that? And all this stuff. I'm like, oh, like,
what about
who? Okay. Here's the thing, and it comes to a sense in the movie that I caught something. So he's saying that people will not know the identity of Spider-Man in the beginning part, but it's totally different at the end of the movie. And I'll get back to that whenever we get towards like the ending part.
Okay.
So he's like, yeah, no one's gonna know the secret identity of everything and stuff like that. He's like, oh, like what about MJ? What about Ned? What about Happy? What about Aunt May? All this stuff or whatever. He's actually too much. Where the spell kind of just fucking blows up for like a minute,
and Strange changes it. He has to keep changing it the whole time.
And then whenever that happens, we get into this, I guess like this little space, right? I guess
like a little.
Almost
like a void.
The void or whatever. And the first thing that we see off the void is a very familiar figure. But not Dr. Octopus.
No.
It's a lizard-like figure. Dinosaur-like figure.
You see a little bit.
You see a little bit of something, and that closes and like, oh, what the hell happened? All this stuff, and he's like, oh, like you're fucking up the. Basically, it's just like I'm saying this my way. Yeah. You're fucking up the spell, Peter. Basically, what the hell are you doing? And a reoccurring line that happens in that movie is like, oh, thank you, sir. Don't call me sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You can call me Stephen Strange or whatever, and stuff like that. It was like, oh, like Stephen. I'm sorry. I'm like, no, call me sir.
Yeah.
And whenever that happens, he's like, I can't cast a spell. Like, the spell's just too dangerous. If this were to get out, then everything will like fuck up in here and all this crap or whatever. And he says that I know that you already made your appeal to the college and be like, you could do that?
He said, hold
up. He's like, you didn't do that?
You can do what?
And whenever I saw that, I looked over to you and I said, we actually could have done that?
We could have.
If no one knew that, I definitely did not know that. I wouldn't be at UIW right now if I knew you could go appeal on this.
Go appeal and say, Look at my submission again.
Look at it again. Please reconsider all the dude. If I could have done that, I would have been at fucking like either like UT or A&M.
Facts.
I could have been out of state maybe.
He could. Then we wouldn't be here.
Oh shit! You know, hey, everything happens.
Everything happens for a reason.
And we're done.
Just pull down the camera.
If you guys didn't see, I just fucking shot webs right now. But you know, they saw that and Dr. Strange was like, what the fuck? He's like, oh, I forget, you're just a fucking kid.
Yeah.
And that happens, and comes to a point where he asks Flash for, like, hey, like, where's this MIT person? Makes it to the bridge, tries to convince, like, oh, like, can you please, like, not just
he doesn't.
me.
Yeah, he's not even asking for himself.
He's asking for MJ and Ned, saying, like, hey, please reconsider them. They're one of the smartest people. I want to say, I'm just kidding. And, like, he's jumbling up his words. Like, even, like, that MIT, like, I guess, like, president, right? Or whatever. One of them.
She's like an admission.
Yeah, she's like, oh, what, MIT is stupid. It's like, no, like I'm stupid. Like you're saying the wrong words, right?
Basically.
And then, in a sense,
and
the
then
Spider Sense.
See, the Spidey Sense.
Like,
the way they handled the Spidey Sense in this movie was, oh my god.
No, it
looked amazing.
No,
the way they would
real.
do the pan out on his face and he's just like looking around.
We really didn't get. We got a glimpse of Spidey Sense in Civil War. Like there was like one scene. It was like whenever the thing got thrown at him from.
And he's like, oh god.
Oh god. Yeah, he's like, oh god. He just turns around.
And he turns around.
And
then in Infinity War, you just see the goosebumps.
Yeah, like it's just like his that
was kind of cool.
That was kind of cool, but then
but you can't see that.
Homecoming, we don't see any Spider Sense. At least I didn't catch anything.
I'm sure there was minor things.
Far from home, we see that like he loses it and he tries to regain it. So now that they finally added in this movie, we see more of it into it, and then
like he's more in tune. He's more in tune to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once it finally acts up, we get the bridge scene.
Classic.
We see Dr. Octavius. Like,
you see the tentacle come out. And
dude, that was intense. Like we knew he was in the movie from the trailer.
Yeah.
But just seeing it was
seeing it still, yeah.
So like
you still just can't believe it.
And we see him like, what did you do with my machine? The power of the sun in the palm of my hand. That's an iconic line. I love saying that line. It's so great.
The power of the sun.
But in the movie we see. In the trailer we see that Doc says like, "Hello, Peter," and then Tom forms from Peter to his Iron Spider suit. Yeah. But in the movie, he puts the Iron Spider suit on already. He has the suit on
before, yeah.
And Dr. Octopus just sees Spider-Man, and he's just like, "Oh, Peter."
Yeah.
And they start going to the spider, whatever, and then they finally big fight, whatever, all this crap. He takes away like some of his nanotech, and then his mask comes off. He's like, "You're not Peter Parker." I was like, "Oh, like what the hell do you mean like that?" And
I'm so confused.
In the trailer, we see that the nanotech gets a Dr. Octopus, and we think
we don't even see that until like the last trailer.
Yeah, and we think that like, oh shit, like maybe like Doc Ock's gonna have like better powers now or whatever. But then we just see that Peter just controls the nanotech.
That was funny.
That was funny.
That was so funny.
And whenever that happens, he says the administrator, says that, like, "I'll reconsider your friends and I'll reconsider you."
He's like, no.
She's
like, nah, I got you.
I guess that's kind of like the worst of like a superhero. I guess like, since you saved, I guess it's like basically just like, if you saved my life, I really owe you like anything. Mm-hmm. So I guess that was his big like break or like little reward or whatever. So then we see that he's like who are you, like who, what, all this stuff, and then right after that fight,
then you then you hear the laugh.
And it's
and
like,
you know what laugh we're talking about.
If you've seen the movie, you already know
what laugh we're talking about.
We see fucking Green Goblin come out, but just for a bit.
For a hot second.
We see the portal comes through. We know that
that tricked me out when the portal, because that portal scene just takes Peter, and then he's in a dark room, and you're like,
what happened?
Damn, like what the. Like,
and then we see a figure behind Peter.
Then you see
the lizard just
dinosaur. I was like, oh my god!
I jumped on that.
I did too.
I was like, oh shit! And then whenever that happened, I was like,
he's getting scared. I'm like, ah! And then
but in the trailer, it sounds like
there was a portal closing.
No. In the trailer, it sounds like Willem Dafoe says this part, but in the movie, Doctor Strange actually says it. He says, "Careful what you wish for, Parker." Like, doesn't it sound like Willem Dafoe's voice whenever in the trailers?
They also say it completely different.
Yeah, exactly. Careful what you wish for, Parker. All this other crap, and we see I found this dude, whatever, and people know that that's the lizard.
Yeah,
but they
Doctor
don't know.
Strange doesn't know. He's
like, what the hell is this or whatever? It's like, oh, whenever you did the spell, like all these people from other universes came in and all this stuff, so you gotta send them back, and basically the whole mission or whatever, and they're like what do you mean, like the multiverse is real? Because we get a glimpse of it in Far From Home, but then we're like it
but then it's proven to be fake.
It was bullshit, but
we're
now it's real.
Except for the Pope.
Nah.
Post credit scene.
And now that it's real, he's like they all know Spider-Man from their universe. It'd be like, what was it? Do you know a Spider-Man named Peter Parker? The Dr. Octopus was like, yeah, is that him?
Is that him?
No.
No.
Who is that? And whenever that happens, he's like, okay, look, this is what I'm gonna do. He basically like texts out his like nanotech suit and gives him like a little gauntlet or whatever.
That's cool. He said, "Go, you gotta go catch everyone that you just brought in here. I caught one, and I'm tired."
Yeah, he's like, well, I can't do this by myself. So he brings in, of course, MJ and Ned, and then whenever he's like, okay, well, there's a new signature. This might be Goblin, and even Doc Ock says that like, what was that? That can't be like.
He said.
That can't be Norman, like Osborn and all this stuff. And he's like, if that's who you're going after, like you're chasing after a fucking ghost and basically all this stuff, and which it makes me like it's really curious to how like people like know whatever, and a lot of people that had theorized about what was the movie kind of actually got it correct of what like speculations of it, saying that like they're all from the same universe but at different points in
different
time.
times.
Yeah, and whenever that happened, they went after whenever they brought them in, and we see that in the beginning that like Peter's suit gets like goo on it or whatever.
It was the paint. It was
and
green
everyone thought that like, oh, Peter got a new black suit. It was just the suit turned inside out.
Inside out.
So they did that. They went and we see like little little electric type stuff come out, but then we also see sand movement, and we're like.
I couldn't tell what that was at first.
Yeah,
because I kind of just saw shit move and I was like, yo.
I caught it right away, and whenever that happened, there was we were like, oh shit, we're gonna get a Spider-Man versus two villains, Sandman and Electro.
That's what we thought, yeah.
But right when Electro came, freaking Peter tried to do it, and we see Blue Electro actually
for a hot second
when he's doing like Yellow Thunder.
Yeah, because he absorbs like new updated technology. Yeah. So yeah, and then he becomes. So then he becomes that, and then whenever the Electro theme song actually comes out for like that was cool.
That was dope as fuck.
He's got a good theme song.
And then whenever he gets electrified or like right one shot, Sandman comes up
and protects him. Yeah.
And he's like, Peter, it's me, it's Flip, Marco, and all that stuff. He's like, I don't know who the fuck you are. He's like, what's going on? He's like, different Peter. I was like, well, just help me. I'll explain everything. And we see this battle between Electro and Sandman and Spider-Man and all this stuff, and like, everyone calms down, and Jamie Foxx, as Max, full form. This boy got a fresh cut. He got straight teeth. He looking like a stunner. He might be a light skin. On me, bro. He's coming in doing all this, and he was naked.
But he was butt-ass naked.
He was butt-ass naked. And after that, they got him some clothes, but then Peter sends him, and then Sandman starts freaking out, like, oh, what did you do to him? And then he sends Sandman, and, he's fixing up everything, and people are like, oh, Aunt May calls him, right, and saying, like, hey, I think one of your friends over here. When he said that, right, I didn't think it was going to be Norman. Thought it was going to be someone else.
That's what they did.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it, but like, if people actually get what I'm trying to say, I was like, oh, like maybe
he said he knows.
He
said he knows Spider-Man.
He knows Spider-Man. It's not like that. So I was like, oh, like maybe they're actually bringing someone in really early in the movie. If they're about that early in the movie, that would be crazy. But I mean, it didn't happen. A little too much. We got in, and it was just Norman being like, oh, like. He was so confused, like oh, I'm in this universe. I don't know, like what's going on. Like Oscorp doesn't exist. My son and little throw. Shout out James Franco.
R.I.P. James Franco.
R.I.P. Harry Osborn. And he's just saying all this stuff like, oh, like do you think you can help me? Like I'm hearing voices and all this stuff, and like and I really think that like again like in
that moment he was.
Norman.
He was Norman.
He was normal, all that stuff and he had kind of like control, whatever. And but it's kind of funny to see him that like how he picks up like fucking like bread and shove it in his pocket.
When Aunt May goes to Peter in the background, and then you see Norman in the background. He's like stealing food.
I gotta send these guys back or whatever. And be like, no, like you need to help them, like actually like help fix them or whatever. And Aunt May's the one that kind of like gets them to do that, right? Yeah. Takes him back, gets in. right whenever they bring in Norman, then Doctor Strange comes in. He's like, "Oh, you got another one." Sends him in the portal. So they trapped all 5 of them, right?
So yeah. And now you got 5. So now you've also got the audience saying 5 villains. Where's the 6th?
If y'all don't know by that was 6, which y'all should, the Sinister Six is which we thought looking at the trailers that's what we were gonna get, but we just got 5. So they were like, oh, they're gonna all do all this stuff, and then that's whenever they're like, everyone's looking at each other like, the Lizard recognizes Max from their universe, and then Sandman, Doc Ock, and Norman know each other from their universe, and they're like.
Sandman's like, y'all both died.
Yeah,
I don't know what y'all
both
doing
died
here.
by Spider-Man and all this stuff.
Fighting Spider-Man.
And be like, do I? No, it's like, Max, do I die? And all this stuff, and they don't know. It's like, nah, but I know. It's like, he's like, I was on the verge. I had Doc Ock was like, I had Spider-Man.
I was about to get him. He said, oh shit.
I think I died.
I was gonna die.
So whenever all that happened, they're just like wow, like we're really gonna get sent back, we're gonna die, whatever. And Peter's kind of like thinks back to like what Aunt May said, and he's like, man, I should really help these, and it's all like Doctor Strange's like, it's their fate, you can't change fate and all that stuff or whatever. And
Peter's like, bet.
He's like, yeah, he's
basically he's like, bet.
Grabs it, runs outside, and Doctor Strange, they do like that was a great battle.
That was a great little sequence, yeah.
And speaking of Spider-Man and Sorcerer Supreme.
We got to see a little bit of this in the movie.
Yeah, just
when Strange sent the cape to go catch Peter, and then like he picks him up, and you see.
It's such a cool look, by the way. I have a pop of Spider-Man in the Sorcerer Supreme coat, so little action figure for those who can't see. But that happens, and we see that he sends him to the mirror dimension. Spider-Man's like, "What the fuck is this mirror dimension?" And he's just trying to get that little fucking cube, because that cube like just hits it back, right?
Yeah.
So like
it resets the whole spell.
Press that little button, and he gets him back and all that, and we see that we think that like, oh, Doctor Strange is about to win this, because I mean it's Doctor Strange.
It's Doctor Strange versus
fucking Spider-Man.
A little not fully grown up Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. And then we see like, oh, like the mirror dimension is just like math or geometry or some shit.
Because he pulls the mirror dimension into a mirror dimension.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when it.
And he traps Doctor Strange, and he's just like, I'm sorry, but I gotta try. And he's like, I'll come get you whenever. And Doctor Strange is like,
he's just tied up.
He's like, what the fuck?
He's like, yo, ain't no way did I just lose to this kid.
So that happens. They go back, and Peter's bragging about all this. That was kind of funny. He's like, oh, I just kicked Doctor Strange's ass.
I just beat Doctor Strange.
And then they're like, look.
Oh, he took the sling ring.
He did take the sling ring too, and he just gave it to Ned. And they were just like he messes around with him. He's like, oh.
They do the handshake, and then a little spark comes on. He's like, yo.
Yeah.
But that's because before that, when he meets Doctor Strange, Ned had mentioned, he's like, yeah, I think I got some magical powers. My family.
He's like, nah. He's just like, nah. I ain't fucking with it.
You?
Yeah. So when that happens, we do see that Peter talks to them and be like, hey, I'm gonna help cure y'all, and then I'll send you back to your universe just so y'all don't do it. Which is kind of just like, if they came from a certain point in their universe, even if you did cure them, wouldn't you just send them back powerless and they still would die?
Yeah, they could have been like mid punch from Spider-Man, and now he just lost his power, and then poof, now he's dead.
like goddamn, like we're gonna do. Everyone knows how Norman died. Norman died by the glider. Dr. Octavius, I mean, I think he could have still like brought down the thing. He might have still needed to bring down the
thing. Doc Ock was gonna change regardless. But Peter didn't know that.
Sandman didn't die at any point. We don't even know what point of Sandman came in, you know?
Yeah, he just disappeared.
He disappeared, so maybe he would have just gone back normal. Probably just got arrested by the cops, probably.
That's a good question. That's another plot question, I guess you could say. At what point did Sandman get...
Then the Lizard was already cured at a point, too, at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man, and then Electro would have gone back and just died, still? Like, again, there's a lot of questions.
You could probably look at it from a standpoint to where if it's, like, them knowing at a point where it brought in characters that knew Peter, you could, I guess, to give the benefit of the doubt to, like, the plot, you could say that it's just they got taken from a point to where they were most, like, closest physically and like emotionally connected with Peter Parker in some way. Like the Lizard probably got taken in his fight with obviously Andrew Garfield, even though he got cured. But in that moment, he was connected with Peter because he was like so heavily trying to stop him from changing the cure, whatever. Same thing with Sandman. Like, you know, he was fighting him, and then Peter gave him the whole "I forgive you" moment, and then in that moment he was super connected to Peter. So I don't know. That's just what you probably could say.
I guess so. So I mean, I guess you could kind of say it like that, but I mean, then they kind of get to the point where take him to Happy's apartment.
Happy's apartment.
Happy's apartment's a little double ass apartment. I'm not gonna lie.
Got a little condo. My bad. It's not an
apartment.
Shit,
you're right.
The condominium.
You know,
my bad.
So they do that, and they notice that there's a little machine, but Electro even, or Jamie Foxx, Electro.
Yeah, he feels it.
He's like, there's some energy back there. There's something back there that's scheming up, and they go back.
It.
It's like a little lab, right? And
creating.
And they want to say, like, just to make sure that all the cure works, they're gonna try it on Doc Ock first, because he's the one that's pissed off the most out of all of them. Because we see Lizard stays in the truck downstairs of the condominium. Yeah. Then Sandman, Electro, Green Goblin, or Norman.
Like, what a bad idea.
Then Doc Ock comes up here. They're all just like, he's still controlling with the nanotech. And there's a point where they get this thing, they put him on the inhibitor chip. And we think that Doc Ock just dies.
Yeah, I thought he...
I
said, ain't no way you fuck up that bad.
Like, exactly, like it just paused for a bit. I'm like, wow, they're really just gonna kill him off like that. And then
he just like wakes up from the dead, bro. He's
like Doc, and like, oh, Peter, like, oh, like
the voices,
they're gone, and all that, and they're like, oh, like, we can do this, you can get to work on. And then his nanotech comes back, and Peter gets the new suit. Cool. It's the same black suit.
It was the black,
but it's just
suit,
like the gold spider.
He just gave him back.
That's a pretty nice, unique suit. I think MC used them fairly well with giving Peter different suits, because we didn't really get that back then whenever we saw the other Spider-Man movies. They had one suit their first movie, and then. But I mean, honestly, a lot of that couldn't really happen because, you know, shout out to Tony Stark. He's really the one that gave Peter all that.
Everything stems to Tony Stark.
Exactly. And then they're working on everything and about to cure Electro. Electro has a little thing on him, and they're working on a cure for Goblin, and working on a cure for Flint. And then comes to a point where I think we see J. Jonah Jameson come in, but we don't know why.
Why he's doing?
I think he got a source call, right, saying like,
he had a buddy that said, "Hey, Spider-Man's pulling up to this apartment with a bunch of guys."
Yeah, with guys like, "Oh, we're gonna catch him" and all this stuff. And then whenever that happens, Peter gets his sense like, "Oh, something bad's gonna happen."
You get one of the greatest looking shots in that whole movie.
But
honestly,
let's not forget that I forgot to mention this real quick. If we get sidetracked back to whenever they were in that little tunnel. Before we get to this, there's actually a meme about Norman that, again, I didn't know it was a meme. I don't know how. I guess I missed this or whatever, but I just knew it because he threw the quote in the movie because he threw it in the first movie. He said,
he said, "I'm something of a scientist myself."
So I remember watching this with my brothers, and they said, they're like, "Oh, that's just fan favorite. Like, that's a meme. Like, just for all like the normies and all that stuff." I was like, whenever I watched it, I wasn't even thinking about the meme. I was thinking about the first movie.
Exactly.
Like, whenever he said it, I was like,
it only recently became a meme. I think within like the last year or two.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just been an iconic line from.
So a lot of people were like I'm pretty sure they did.
It was funny at first, yeah.
It's funny. Meme-esque.
Yeah.
But like to me, I thought they were just like, oh, they're just reference back to the first movie, you know. So I was just like, it's funny. I was laughing because of that.
Cinema, yeah.
But I needed to add that because I felt like people would have said that like, oh, you didn't add this or whatever. But there, that back to the condominium. The Spidey sense goes crazy.
Also, I'm sorry, I hate to backtrack again, but speaking of Spidey sense, when he's fighting Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange pushes him into his astral projection. You see the actual tingling.
Yeah.
The little rays above his head.
Yeah, we see that a lot.
The comic accuracy of that one.
Yeah, that was amazing. And his little.
Yeah, his little dodging.
You can see with this, he's basically just like.
Yeah, basically his body was dodging. But anyways, I'm sorry, I had to point that out.
No, I'm glad that you got that.
But yeah, back to
Condominium with another spider sense.
The Spidey sense.
Which is like just Tom Holland's closed up.
I was so confused watching this part because I had no idea what was going on.
He
Like
was
I knew I guess his Spidey sense was acting up, but like you can't tell. They really, the way they directed it is kind of like, in a moment like that, you are kind of feeling what Peter's like. Peter was probably confused as shit too. His spider sense was going off, and he was like, "Yo, like what?
Like what's going on?
What's going on?" Like, and then he was sitting there focusing it, and then that's exactly how we were. We were like confused. We were like, "Why is he?
Well, because
what is he tripping for?"
In a sense, I thought it was because of Jameson at first. Because I was just like, oh, maybe he just.
That would make sense. I think I thought that at first, but then I was like, I mean, Jameson's not.
No,
he's not that big of a threat. Like, what?
I think he was just waiting for people to still get down here, so he was just like, oh, maybe all the people are gonna come and all this. So maybe that's what he was sensing at first. And then he's looking, and we even see like Electro's like.
Yeah, the whole time Electro's
something
like.
Doesn't feel right. Like this.
He's like, I don't like. He's like, I want to keep this electricity.
Yeah, and then we see he's like Peter's like he's like Electro's like why are you looking at me like that or whatever. And we think like
yeah, because Peter's like kind of like he's like glaring at each one of them.
And then
he just shoots a web and you're like.
And he shoots it at Norman.
And he
like,
webs his hand.
That's some neat trick of yours.
That sense of yours.
Oh yeah, that's what he says, bro. Fuck. But he's like Norman's on sabbatical, honey.
That was funny.
that was
funny,
bro. The switch
up, bro.
Bro, again, and this is why Willem Dafoe is one of the greatest actors of all time for putting. I think this is. He did a really bang up job. Raimi. Like, I really loved him as a Green Goblin. He's an iconic character whenever it comes to that. And he was in Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, but just like for glimpses, you know? But this has to be his top role of all time. Just like comic movie sense as well, because he acted the fuck out of playing a character from a fucking comic that we know Green Goblin's crazy in the comics, but we get to see a live action version of like
crazy, yeah.
And
it's a whole different kind of crazy than like you're used to in a villain. Like,
so he's like, oh, we should be getting rid of these powers. We should be using them like gods.
Like, we're gods.
Yeah, all that stuff.
We have these for a reason.
And then that's what happens when now Electro takes it off.
Yeah, then it's just like you're right.
Everything goes crazy. Sandman takes off. Doc Ock fucking leaves, and the Lizard goes crazy downstairs for a bit. And
Lizard dips. Yeah, basically they're all.
And Electro dips too, but then it's just this battle between Spider-Man and Green Goblin.
I was probably my favorite fight in that whole movie.
No, dude, that was a fucking intense.
That was crazy.
Intense fight. And the thing is that we've seen Goblin fight Spider-Man in the past.
But not like this.
But not like this. Like this is like crazy.
But
like also like
this is pure hate in this fight.
And fucking
Well,
no, that was later.
That was later.
This one Peter hasn't fought a foe like this. I think out of everyone,
MCU Peter has
that was his greatest opponent. Like that was
he himself had to take care of.
Because,
like fighting Thanos was, of course, Thanos was a bigger threat than Goblin, but he had the entire Avengers roster to go up against Thanos.
He went up against the Vulture, which is just a guy with wings. Again, there's no hate for the Vulture, but that's how it is. He went up against Mysterio, which wasn't
basically human.
He got the first actual, like, I guess super human super villain that would be able to actually
like
take him on.
Villain.
That was like him. The one that actually had powers that he could take on by himself.
Yeah.
So whenever that happened, I even wrote down like right here in my notes that there wasn't even someone had said that there was a combo move that took from Spider-Man PS4, and it was the one where he slams him down on there. That was a good scene where everybody's fighting him, all this stuff, and then comes to like I think the Lizard comes out and throws him back in.
He crawls out the window, and then like he's kind of like recovering, and then Lizard comes up, fucking slams him,
and then the Lizard just dips.
Yeah,
and then he fights.
Throws him back to Norman.
They're going at it.
Norman does the fucking move, bro. He drops the bomb on him.
No, but before that, whenever Peter, like they're fighting, Peter gets on top and he punches his face, like boom,
dude,
boom,
that shit was crazy.
And then he just takes it, like he's not
he's not even flinching, and he's just like laughing.
Like, bro, he's
eating those. Bro.
That's pure crazy. And whenever I want to bring this to this on the side too is that a lot of people say that Willem Dafoe actually could have played a really good Joker.
I think he could have. In his younger years, he probably
could have. But I mean, we know
I
that
don't
he's
think anyone was considered.
No one considered Willem Dafoe because
We saw him do because Spider-Man 1 Green Goblin crazy was like a different kind of crazy, but it was also an earlier time.
Yeah, so they didn't really like, go all out. A lot of people didn't really like was familiar as people like getting into like superhero stuff now as they are now, and then they were like, okay, let's go full fucking Goblin on it. Let's go crazy, yeah. And if you're kind of comic accurate, in my opinion, after watching this movie and watching Green Goblin, like the performance of Willem Dafoe, it really made me think that I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. I think Green Goblin is honestly way like crazier than Joker. But Joker has done some really fucked up stuff. I'm not gonna say, I'm not.
The Joker is more sadistic.
Yeah.
But like Green Goblin is just like psychotic.
Psychotic.
Like
as
he's
hell.
literally just crazy. And
that's why I like especially like there's even points where like Norman doesn't know whenever he switches over to Green Goblin. He's fighting personalities.
He's he's like extreme bipolarness.
I know. Like, there's a point where like in the comics they're like joined. Like Norman's like, oh, I want to be the Goblin. I'm crazy. Like this is actually like me or whatever and stuff like that. And even like the Sam Raimi movie, I think they know at the same time.
They kind of like
kind of link.
Goblin. I guess Goblin's side convinces Norman to be like, oh, you think we're separate people? He's like, no, we're in the same mind.
But in this one, the Goblin took full control.
Basically.
Like that was crazy. And I really like the way they portrayed it as that. And of course, we get the body slam. the body slam of the century.
Picked him. He threw him against the ceiling, cut him, and then moved through like 5-6 floors.
They were at like the top, bro.
They were at the top of this building, and he dropped him
going all the way down.
That
and
was
Peter got
crazy.
his shit rocked. Like Peter got his fucking shit rocked. And you know,
my heart was racing,
bro.
Because this was such a scene from like how the movie started. This was such a pace switch.
Yes, for real. Which they did beautifully. Actually,
that was crazy. Yeah.
Whenever they finally get downstairs, we see Aunt May come, but before that, she actually grabbed like some of the stuff to actually like
fix them, all this devices
stuff.
They
go downstairs and Aunt May's there, and Peter's like, May, like. Get away, all this stuff, like May, like it's this little thing or whatever, and Goblin's like, but you'll be, or like no, he says something or whatever, and then
something about
the glider comes in and just fucking wrecks her like bad, and people were in the theater, everyone like their hearts.
You hear a gasp, you hear a gasp when then silence.
Dude, it went
in the
straight
theater.
silent, or whatever, and we're thinking like, no way.
I was shook.
No,
as soon as I saw the glider pull up, I said,
no,
ain't no fucking
I thought Peter would have at least like tried to like.
I thought someone was gonna stop that.
Yeah, and then Goblin hops on. He's like, oh, like I totally forgot some of the dialogue right there. But he gets the bomb and he throws it at Aunt May. But then Peter gets in the way and chucks it and it just blows up on him.
Side, yeah.
So he does that and he goes to May. And she stands up.
She stands up and she's just kind of shaking, like just obviously just like blunt force trauma type thing.
And whenever that happens, he's like, "Oh, it's my fault. Like all this is happening. It's just going like so much or whatever." He's like, "No, you did the right thing. You were doing
it." Then we get the line,
dude. We did the right thing, and you have come with great power.
She's like, "And you have a great power.
With great
power. And with great power." Must also come
great responsibility.
Bro, we got it.
You don't know how long I've been waiting for that fucking quote to come into the MCU, bro. Like, that was the one thing I was waiting for. Mm-hmm. And when it finally got everyone...
You heard a clap, bro.
Everyone clapping, bro. That shit was crazy. That happened. And it was just like, oh, yeah, I got it, whatever. And she's like, oh, let's go. And then...
Those were grown man tears that were shed.
And then whenever... Yep. I honestly like say it because I live by that quote a lot. I really do, especially since I ever saw Sam Raimi and Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, as soon as you hear it, you just think of everything. Uncle Ben.
Yeah,
it all just blends.
And again, like that. Also, like that's crazy that like he didn't hear that before. You know, it's kind of hinted that Ben was in the universe, right?
I think it's that he had already been like dead.
Yeah, he had already been dead, but they don't
ever say like he gave him that line or that he told him how to be a hero because. I mean, we don't know how their relationship was or anything.
Exactly. But then...
so we get the line.
Aunt May falls. And we're like, oh, like, what's going on?
Yeah, you're like, yo, she good?
She good, and...
And then Peter's like, yo, get up. Like, we're getting out of here.
Yeah,
like, we're all good.
And then he sees that, and
then he sees like the blood coming out of her back.
Oh no, like bro, that must have been like a big hit.
He definitely sensed it. Like she was.
I thought
slipping.
whenever that glider was there, I thought it was gonna be like an actual glider.
I thought that was gonna be immediate. Like that probably should have been. It probably no way.
Dude, that would have been so brutal.
Realistically, nobody could have survived that hit, especially with like the rubble that was falling and then the way right through like.
And the explosion too. Like I mean, that's still a close explosion, you know.
Exactly.
So whenever that happens, like Peter's just like no, like even I was like, bro, no way they were killing. Like
I was already crying, but like, oh my god.
I already had gotten an Aunt May death in Spider-Man PS4. That one was tough.
That one was tough.
I think I cried more on that game than I cried for that scene. Honestly, I'm not be like, but it was a very emotional scene. I'm not gonna lie.
Damn,
But I did get teary. I was like, no way. Like I was like Hot May.
Hot May.
So all that, and you see like the emotions, like he can't take it. Like he's just like no.
He's like. I mean, he goes through like I think every stage of like grief. Yeah,
he went through a lot, bro. He's lost everyone.
Within the span of like an hour, he's gone through. He already had to fight the shit and like barely survive Green Goblin, and now May's dying
exactly
right in front of him, and it's just like never ending.
And a lot of people, we didn't expect that was going to be a major kill. Like no one expected that they were going to like kill her off like that. But I mean, I guess it's for like a purpose.
I mean, in Spider-Man's story, it kind of has to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for that one.
No matter how you want to interpret it.
But you know, that's just how it's gonna have to go.
Yeah,
but
so Aunt May died.
But
Peter
then
goes
Happy
through
pulls
it.
up. But then they even arrest Happy. Like the SWAT team pulls up is like that. But they're just like
because he's technically like a trespasser.
Spider-Man got to go away, and then
he gets shot.
Yeah, he does
by
get
the
shot.
FBI.
Yeah, but then he dips, he escapes, and then we have like a little like kind of like cut moment, and then it goes to the scene where
Jameson's on a big screen and
prophesizing all this shit,
just basically talking
everywhere
shit
Spider-Man
about
goes.
Spider-Man. And Peter's like literally just standing there in the rain, bloodied up, like crying, holding the bag that Aunt May gave him with the devices, and he's just like.
That was a great scene though. Like
that was
beautiful. Like he didn't even have to say it. You just saw like everything. He's just like his eyes are in shock. Like why everything's hitting him at once. We even see that like Ned and MJ are together.
In that moment, he's like listening to Jameson. He's like.
And then
maybe he's right.
They even announced that like Aunt May's dead on TV, right, or whatever. That's where they get this. That's why everyone's like hugging each other, like, oh my god.
They said one person dead at the scene, and I think they obviously know who was with Peter.
Yeah. So it's just like everything just hit him like and like it just goes away, and then it goes, and then that was just a tough scene, but it was a beautiful performance by Tom showing like him being hurt.
Like those were real emotions. Those are real. I felt every single part of that, honestly.
I think MCU actors just like really nail their parts when it comes to emotional.
Marvel
scenes.
Studios knows exactly what they're doing. When they cast, they know what they're doing.
So that had happened, and then we go to. Okay. We get there. We get to the scene.
We're
at that part, right? Okay. We're at the part of what we were talking about earlier of our speculations of the movie, just overall. And if you're with us so far, congratulations! You made it through half the movie we just talked about.
We've literally just been giving you the movie. So if you haven't seen it, but you decided to stick through, now you've seen it.
You basically seen it.
Basically
but this is basically halfway through the movie, right? This has to be halfway through the movie.
I think it's. I mean, like how they go by acts, like first act, second act, third act. This is probably about the beginning / probably the beginning of the third act.
No, honestly, I think yeah,
maybe the end of this.
Maybe the end of the second act.
Or the transition in between.
If you're looking at it like from a book's perspective,
if you look at it that way,
yeah.
Like the in between the next chapter kind of thing.
We go to Ned and MJ.
Ned and MJ are talking, looking at the news. House, right? They're at Ned's grandma's house.
Yeah, so they're chilling there. They're just talking about like, oh man, I hope Peter's okay. Like, no, he's okay. All this stuff, and they're just talking about like, oh, like what are we gonna do? Like, and MJ has the box.
MJ has the box that's supposed to reset.
She's like, I'm gonna press it.
She's like, I'm gonna press it. She is like,
if I don't hear, like she even says earlier in the movie, like if I don't hear from you, Peter, I'm gonna press the button. She's about to do is like, no, like we should wait for Peter while that, and it's just like, and that sling ring on.
He has Doctor Strange's ring on.
And he says, "I wish Peter was here."
He's like, I just wish I could see him. And then
and we see a spark.
You see a little,
He's
and
like,
you're like,
whoa,
like,
oh shit,
like, yo.
Whatever happens.
And then MJ sees it. She's like,
do it again.
She's like, do that again.
I wish Peter was here, and it opens up. It's like, do it again. I wish you could see Peter Parker. And the
portal opens, and you're like,
and you see. Just picture if you can't see it. I'm holding my Spider-Man little plushie, right?
It's gotta turn up. This is what you.
This is basically what you see. You see like the eyes.
That's kind of all you see. Picture it just so much darker though, because it's just a black figure and you just see white lenses, and you're like,
like that's Peter. Peter's like kind of waving. You can turn it on now, but as you see, he's like, oh, Peter comes running up through the portal,
and you see him as soon as he jumps through the portal. You could just the big lenses.
The big lenses. You
I
already know.
My heart, bro. Oh my.
We have been waiting for this moment for so long. I remember I have been talking about this for a while, saying like there is a possibility that everything could be joined together in the MCU at a point. And I'm talking about either being at Sony, Fox, any of the franchise that owns any other superhero rights, that there was a possibility, and there was a lot of people that had like doubts about it because it was just money thing. But they fucking made it work.
They did it.
They brought in Andrew fucking Garfield, Spider-Man.
That reveals, because you see him in the suit. He has the mask on. You
mask
see him
on.
jump through the suit, and you're still like, okay, that's definitely
Spider-Man.
Definitely Spider-Man. And then he unmasked, and you see him. Oh my god.
Bro, I was like, ain't no way. I was like, bro. Shout out to Andrew Garfield for keeping a fucking secret, bro. Every single press conference that he went to,
he said, nah,
I was like, it's a fake.
He said,
I'm not in the movie.
I'm not in that movie.
They didn't call me, bro. Bro. I bet he was off his fucking. He was going insane, not telling people, bro.
Whenever I talk to people about that, like I always tell them, like, I think like deep down, you know they're in the movie. Like when you've got shit like this happening, you've got their villains, like you know they're in the movie. But Andrew Garfield said it in that one interview. He was like, I had to keep denying it because, like, even if they did know at the end of the day, when they're going into that movie, there's still that little itty bit of doubt that maybe they're not in it. And that's all that you need for some hype like that to just...
Exactly, bro. Like, everyone was speculating, like, oh, man, this movie isn't... And it looked like the way that it was going, that, like, oh, shit, or whatever, like, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I know Brandon went crazy. We actually had a good little scene.
For Andrew Garfield, yeah.
We had a little scene of
that was so funny.
We like, oh, do you have the
MJ? Well, MJ's like,
do you have the tingle
on
thing?
guard.
Like,
she's
yeah,
like,
I have the tingle thing.
She's like, who the? She's like,
you're not.
He's like, I'm on Spider-Man.
I'm Spider-Man. We're like, no, we're
She's like, prove it.
Prove it.
She's throwing bread at him.
Like, where's the tingle? I was like, I have the tingle, just not bread.
For the bread. She's like, crawl around. He's like, nah.
Why?
Are you kidding? Like, you
he goes,
he just jumps up, bro.
He's like, and then he's like, Nancy Grandpa's talking. He's like, oh, can you get that cobweb across the white? Goes across and gets the cobweb.
Like, sure.
He's like, oh, I guess it was like, whoa.
Is that enough?
She's like, I just he's basically just saying like, oh, I just popped up here and all this stuff. Like, oh, Peter from different universe and all. It's like he's like, oh, like the multiverse is real. Like he's geeking out.
He's kind of geeking, yeah.
And he's just like, well, like if that opened that Peter, then that means that we could get to. I mean, our Peter's still out there.
Yeah. And Jay was like, well,
do it again.
She's like, just keep doing it until we get our Peter.
Yeah. He's just like, oh, like. I wish you could see Peter, right, or whatever.
Yeah, he says,
Peter's Peter Parker. That's what he said.
Peter Parker.
He said, first says, wish that Peter
I wish I could
was
see
here.
Peter, yeah.
So, Peter came
We
through.
did get a Peter.
And I wish we could see Peter Parker, or wish you could see Peter Parker. He's like, what do you, like, Andrew Garfield's like, what do you do? He's like, oh, shut up. Like, we're trying to do something. And a portal opens. And we see.
And you just see, like, MJ, it kind of goes in on MJ, and she's like looking, and she's like kind of confused. She's like.
And whenever he steps through, it's.
Then you see, well, they kind of shade his face, and you just see normal clothing, like normal clothing.
Totally.
And then you see him step through, and the way he comes through, bro, is so he just like waltzes in. He's like, yo.
He's like, who are you? I was like, I'm Peter Parker.
I'm Peter Parker, and then he sees Andrew in the suit, and he's like,
yo. He's like, they're all. The point.
They had the. For those of you on the YouTube, you can see it. Everyone on Spotify, we have the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other. We got the Funko Pop.
Holy crap, bro! Again, ladies and gentlemen, I grew up with this, bro, and Brandon grew up with it as well. So again, I'm actually getting really like chills just talking about it. Low key, like every time I think about it,
I have been like this whole time, like low key.
I cried whenever Toby came through that portal because those are the movies I grew up with. That was everything that like formed me into kind of like the person I am. That's what makes me like the geek that I am. Before I read comics, before I like saw all this, I saw Toby's Spider-Man. That was my Spider-Man, and I appreciate Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man as well. I don't want people to think that like, oh, Nate's just bragging about Toby, right? No, Andrew Garfield was a great casting. His movies just didn't do him right, or at least the second one didn't.
I would agree.
The first one was a good one. The second one didn't really do well to him, and but whenever we see them, you know, they're pointing at each other, and then they go into this.
It's just so crazy to see because it's like we already have a new Spider-Man, right? But seeing both of like the old Spider-Man on the same screen interacting with each other was just the craziest thing to ever see.
Who would have fucking thought, you know? And they see that they have like their little web off just real quick, but we gotta see that like Toby
just kind of outsmarts him, like shooting.
Cause he's like the OG, you know. He knows. I think he knows like all the tricks, you know.
He knows where to like hit him and even Andrew's
he's like
okay.
And he's like, and the grandma's like, can you stop shooting webs?
Bro, she's like, y'all gonna clean that, right? And they say, yo, might be.
Other stuff, and they even have that little like bragging part where it's just like oh like I feel like we're here to help y'all's Peter.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he's in trouble or he needs our help and all this stuff. He's like they're all like agreeing and stuff like that. We're like we just don't know where he's at.
Like, where do you know where he could be?
The Chrysler Building
and then he said Empire State.
Empire State is like it's
pretty good view.
Like they're bragging like that's good dialogue. I was like, bro, they're talking to each other, you know?
Yeah, they are talking.
And like, oh, I think we know where he would be. And I thought, okay, this is what I thought he was actually gonna go to. I thought that Peter would have been at Uncle Ben's grave.
That would make sense.
That would make the movie honestly even better than what it was. Like he'd be like, kind of like reminiscent to Uncle Ben.
Yeah, because he just lost Aunt May, so now he's probably feeling the same feelings.
If I was the writer or director, I would have done that. That's what I would have done because I felt like it would have hit even harder to the audience as well. And then imagine, but I mean, it was good the way they brought him in. Still, it's just that's the way I would have done it. Is that like he's at Uncle Ben's grave, but we say he's on top of the
school. That was their school.
What's the school called again? The something science or
dude,
school for science nerds.
I
That's an actual school though, so I hope I don't get any hate on that.
I know. I'm sorry if he got that wrong. I didn't know it either, but I wasn't gonna try. But yeah, so yeah, they're on top of the rooftop. Then one of my favorite. Well, actually, before that, MJ and Ned walk out. They hug Peter for a second, bro, bawling.
Yeah,
bawling. Peter just like you can tell he's sitting there. He's like just kind of thinking. He's kind of holding it in. Then MJ and Ned.
He's like we gotta send him back. That's why like Peter's like we gotta do it. I already fucked up. Like I gotta, and MJ's like nah, like there's some people that are here that want to talk
she's
to
like because you can kind of see like Peter's sense goes off and he's like there's other people here, and then MJ's like relax, like there's some people that want to help, bro. Yeah. And then you get one of the coldest shots in the entire movie.
We see
the silhouette, bro.
Andrew the moon Toby up there with the moon, bro.
The moon in the back, and you just see silhouettes. You see Andrew on top of that little dome thing, and then you see Toby just like hanging off the side. Oh my god,
that was a fucking crazy shot, and then all this fucking come down like spider. And
they just jump down, bro. Oh my god.
And they're like, oh, oh, what's going on? I was like, oh, look, wait.
Yeah, they're like, hey, chill.
Sure, like they all show each other and all that stuff. Peter, they start talking whatever, but then Tom. Okay, I'm gonna start referring them as just their actual actor names, just so the audience doesn't get confused. Because if I say Peter, all this crap.
If I say Peter one.
And actually, there's a scene in that movie where that happens.
Where that happens.
But so Tom's just like, look, like wait, before you guys say anything, like I'm sorry that all these people like this is happening. It's my fault. Like I have to send
I'm gonna send you guys home.
Like you already dealt with him before, so like it's y'all's problem still. All this stuff. He's about to do it, and he's like nah, like then he's like
he says I don't care anymore.
You know, like he really like he's like I give up and all that stuff. But then Toby's like, I lost. Was it? I remember I lost my person too, and he says like I lost Uncle Ben. He's talking about him and all that stuff, and then
Andrew's like, I kind of know what you're going through, and he's like, if you're gonna say it, he's like, no, he's like, you don't tell me you know what I'm going to, and then they're like,
the thing is that like that what's awesome about that is like a lot of people in real life, like in our perspective,
it would be the same thing.
We don't go through the same things. It's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
But
they literally
when you're talking to yourself, you know what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically saying
they've been through it.
They've been
through it already, yeah. And then Tom's just going through it, so they're like,
hey guys, I just want to let y'all know if you have made it this far during the video that we did have a little bit of difficulties on my part. I didn't end up charging the camera all the way, so we did lose footage towards the end, but we're just gonna add the rest of the audio in here just so y'all can listen to the rest. I just do greatly apologize. I did fuck up on this one, but you know, next time we'll get it down. We're still going through this, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the video.
Thank you. We really get it.
We really get it. Like, I lost my Uncle Ben. Because like for me, it was Gwen, my MJ.
Well, he lost his.
I mean, he lost Uncle Ben as well, but
Ben
the one that hit the most was Gwen, of course. And God, if everyone knows about that scene, that's a tough scene. Honestly, I
cried to this day.
Even though that movie wasn't well perceived and well made, that scene is still a fucking heartbreaking scene. It's a very iconic scene, and just saying like we do all this stuff and be like oh, like even though like Aunt May was still like dying and all this stuff, she even told me that we did the right thing and stuff like that, and he was just reminiscing about all this, and then at a point she even told me with great power, and then Toby lights up, bro. He's like
yo, comes great responsibility.
He's like, how did
and then Tom's like, yo.
He's like, Uncle Ben told us that. Like, oh, Andrew says Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben says it.
I have something to say about that.
Okay, yeah, Andrew's Uncle Ben says it differently.
He's like, oh, there's nothing about responsibility.
Yeah,
he doesn't even say great power.
He says, not choice, responsibility.
It's a longer version. I mean, it's stupid. Honestly,
we don't need to talk.
We don't need to talk about it. It's all right. We get it. Great power, great responsibility. All this stuff. He's like, oh, the day that when
Uncle Ben died, and then Tom's like, yo, so that was supposed to happen. Basically, yeah. It's basically.
No, so he's like, oh shit. I guess I was supposed to hear that fucking quote.
He said, God. But
what if that's a curse? That's a curse. If you say someone, Brandon, if I ever come up to you, great power comes great responsibility, I'm fucking dying.
You're dying, bro. I'm about to become Spider-Man.
But that was such an interconnection moment where like everything happened and all that stuff, and it was like, look, we're not telling you like what to do, but like if we do this, like we can actually help you and all this stuff. He's like, all right. He's like I want to kill him.
He's like, I want.
He wants to kill that dude. Like he ruined
and
everything.
I get it. You get it.
Like he's like what, like just Andrew Garfield saying like even after like her death, I stopped pulling my punches and.
Andrew Garfield killed that.
Bro, he
killed that. You can tell, bro. He was being Peter Parker.
Andrew Garfield. Just before we get to the end, I just want to say that Andrew Garfield honestly had, besides Tom, he was second in acting. Andrew redeemed his character on a whole different level.
Tom and Willem were on a whole nother level. But Andrew, second, he was Andrew for sure.
Second was Andrew, and whenever that happens, they finally get to work and they get into the lab scene.
This is another. It's kind of like a little comedic relief scene, like
they to get everything.
It's a little like to finally lighten the mood because we've just been getting hit with like feels after nostalgic feels. And then just like feels.
And then we even see like a moment where it's just like, oh, like Andrew's like, I've dealt with Connors before. I know what
like, I'll take this one.
And everyone's just like, okay, like you don't have to brag, right? Like,
and then and he just goes back.
And then
Toby's like,
I'll
get Marco.
But it's like I've been thinking about Goblin for a while, and it was like damn, like I mean, he probably like. Pretty sure Goblin hit him the most in like the Raimi universe, of course. I think
he was still thinking about it after Green Goblin's been dead, but he's like,
I think
just
Tom,
in case.
Tom's the one that was working on.
Yeah, Tom said he'll get Marco and.
I mean, they already had the shit for Electro. Like, I think they already had everything.
I think he just needed to, like...
They already had the Goblin Serum and shit. Like, they already knew, like, what the fuck they were doing and crap. But whenever that we did at the same time.
That's crazy. That was crazy. Me and this guy are on the same level.
We're on the same level, my guy. But then we kind of like did like a catch-up scene. You know? Like, being like oh, like, Ned's like, hey, did you have a best friend?
That was fun. That part was good.
Yes. He died.
He tried to kill me.
He tried to kill me.
He died after he tried to kill me, and Ned was like, what?
He's like, and then we see that movie where we're just like, hey, Ned, can you... Tom's like, Ned, can you help me?
He's and then
he just like steps away, bro. And then we see that the little MJ and Tom scene, they're like, oh, like, we're gonna be okay and all that. And we see Andrew look over, still like...
Just thinking about Gwen.
Thinking about Gwen, or like, do you have someone back home? Like, nah, like, I don't have time for Peter Parker stuff. Like, it makes it seem that, like, his universe, like, he's just focused on Spider-Man now, you know?
I mean, that's all he can.
It's all he has, and that's all we left off from his universe. Was
him becoming Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he took a hiatus from being Spider-Man to just kind of mourn for Gwen Stacy, and then he was like, all right, they kind of do need me, so I guess I'll do it.
So whenever that happened, and then Peter, fucking, Andrew's like, told Toby, he's like, well, what about you? Do you have someone who's like, it's complicated, and which kind of makes it seem just like, bro, it's been years since Spider-Man 3. That relationship should not be complicated anymore.
It probably shouldn't be.
But then I think he kind of says like, but you know, I made it work. Yeah, he says like, we made it work. We made it work. Me and MJ. And I think whenever they said like,
and then he said, me who? Who?
It was like not her, not MJ. My MJ, a little different and all this stuff. I mean, it was funny and all that. And then kind of gets to the point where Ned says, oh Peter.
He's like, hey Peter, and then they all like, oh yeah. I'll let
Peter.
Peter. And then they do the point again. Yeah, they go.
Shout out to Pops.
They do it like 3 times.
I actually heard that was actually Andrew's idea to put that in.
The point?
Yeah.
That one or the one?
All of them. Like I think he's the one that mentioned like, hey, we should do the point. I think that's what in an interview.
How do you just not put?
Yeah, exactly. They put that in the fucking Spider-Man PS4 game. So that happened, and that was like we're getting like a whole like comedic shit, and they're getting ready and all this stuff, and they have all the antidotes ready.
Yeah. Then they finish all their little devices, and then they're like. Then they're just scheming. They're like, well, how do we get these? Like, how do we track them down? And then they're like, oh, we ain't gonna do it. They're gonna come to us. And then, boom, next scene. Now they're on the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, Statue of Liberty.
The new Statue of Liberty
with the Captain America shield, which I was like,
crazy. I said, okay.
I remember there was like some controversy about it.
There's a lot of controversy about it. It's like, how do you change something like that? But it's like, we don't live in a fucking superhero universe right now. If we did and we had someone like Steve Rogers, ain't no doubt we would not do that.
Exactly, for real. I think we definitely wouldn't do that. We see him as like our fucking above our president.
He's like literally our patriot.
Time out real quick. I'm gonna put the charger on the phone, ladies and gentlemen. We want to make sure that our video footage is still running high.
Imagine it stopped.
Damn, it do be like that though.
Did it die?
Yeah. Well, you want to know something? We're okay with this.
We're okay with it.
We still got the podcast.
We still got the audio going.
Oh man, that was on me.
Little technical difficulties. We may or may not have the YouTube video up for this one, I guess.
It was a tough hit, but
major blow to the. Really just got the wind out of your sails, huh? That was. Hey, it's alright. Fast forward. It's alright. We'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. It happens.
Well, let me just look at the camera real quick, just to.
Sidetrack. I guess I'll continue on while he works on that. So we get to that Statue of Liberty scene. Tom makes a video and he's like, yeah. He was like, I thought I could fix y'all, but y'all don't want to be fixed. He's like, and then he kind of shows off the box in the video. He's like, what? He was like, I got this, so like, basically, come get it. And then, he sent this video to Jameson. So Jameson is like, well, folks, you know where he is. He's at the Statue of Liberty, blah, blah, blah. And then they're sitting there waiting, and they're all they're talking. So they're setting up their little devices for their plan to be able to walk around the Statue of Liberty and fight them all. Then we get a great little like interaction between Toby and Andrew. So Tom's off doing some other shit, probably setting something up, and then Toby and Andrew are talking. They're like stretching, limbering up before this big old fight that they're about to have with every single villain that they've ever faced in their career. And they're stretching, and then Toby's like kind of complaining about his back, and then he's like, I guess it's just from the swinging. Andrew's like, no, yeah. He's like, I got you, bro. Like, I got the same thing going on in my back. He's like, you want me to pop it for you? No. This guy just knocked over the light. For those of you that can't see it, which is all of you. Anyways, yeah. Andrew tells Toby, he's like, I'll crack your back for you, bro. He's like, I got you. And then you see a funny little scene where he's like, all right, cross your arms, and Andrew like picks up Toby and like does the old hopping and cracks his back.
And that's a very actually funny ass scene.
That was
they're
very
really
funny.
like bonding, and then after that we kind of see that like
After that, then they have another little interaction where they're talking.
I always wanted brothers. Like I think out of all of the Spider-Man, Andrew's actually the one that's enjoying it the most. Mm-hmm. Like he's the one that's just like, oh wow, like this is like really like the real.
He's really a real middle child. He's a real middle child.
But he also shows like the true like I feel like an actual like Peter Parker that doesn't have all this shit going on. Like if he were to jump into another universe, he'd be like, oh, this is dope.
Yeah, he's like, yo, this is what's going on over here. Okay. But yeah, so then they have a kind of cool little interaction, or that little interaction keeps going. Basically, what do they keep talking about? Is that when Tom Holland comes in and he's like, hey, so what's the craziest villain?
Yeah. Because they talk about the web shooters first, right?
Yeah.
And then they talk about the villains, and they bring up like,
Tom Holland's like, what's the craziest villain y'all have ever
like,
fought?
oh, that's a great question. And all like, what do you think of? And Toby says, what was this?
He's like, well, I did fight this alien from space made of black goo.
And everyone,
and everyone's like, yo,
like we already knew.
We already knew exactly who, you know who.
And then Tom's
like, hey, I fought an alien from space. Well, from space and in space.
Of course,
and then
Thanos.
And then Andrew chimes in. He's like, damn, I want to fight an alien. He's like, damn, that's so cool. And then
but like, what kind of like builds up being like, oh damn, we should definitely like get Andrew and the alien.
That's what I'm saying. It seemed like they were doing a lot of foreshadowing for Andrew, which I hope they were. But yeah, Andrew's like, I want to fight an alien. He's like, and then Toby's like, no, let's circle. You said you fought an alien in space, and then Andrew's like, oh, I'm lame. And then Toby's like, hold up, you are not lame. Talking to Andrew, which in that moment I kind of saw that as everyone talking to Andrew, because being that Andrew's Spider-Man is technically regarded as the worst Spider-Man, though it's not his fault. It's still what I guess our modern day culture looks at it as, is like, that's just the worst one. If you had to pick one that was the worst of the three, and that was kind of their way of saying like, nah, like that one's good too. They're all good, but especially like this one's good too. It's not like as lame as everyone's saying. That's how I interpret that scene.
No, I definitely interpreted it the same way as well. I mean, just like, they give the man some slack. He didn't even get like all this hate throughout all the past years. I mean, he really like did his best of portraying the character as well. Again, like he's not the one that wrote the damn script, you know. Yeah. He's not the one that put the movie together.
He did what he was given.
Andrew was, and I think a lot of people just portrayed him as being like the quote unquote worst Spider-Man just because of like the movies he was in, but he really wasn't overall. He really wasn't. He was true to the character. You know, not my favorite Peter Parker, but Spider-Man, yeah, he was really great. Just the physique, the figure, all that, it was actually really spot on for an actual Spider-Man. Even like taking off without like the way he acted as Peter Parker, but just looking at him, that is Peter Parker, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we finally get that little dialogue, and then after that we see the like, okay, all right, like.
Then they start pulling up.
Let's get shit together. Let's fucking they start coming here.
Yeah, Electro's like, you see like lightning through the sky, and they're like, all right, well, they're coming, and then boom, they all mask up, and then they all kind of go to fight their villains. They're a little clumsy with it because this is the first time all three of them, they have zero chemistry, of course.
Yeah, I think Lizard attacks Toby first, and then Sandman goes after Tom for a bit, and then Andrew goes after Electro, and Electro's like, oh, it's my old friend Spider-Man. And there's even like a part.
That was funny.
Dude, that was funny. He's like, I'm just trying to help you. He's like, you ain't even the shit.
You ain't even the shit no more. And Andrew's like, huh.
But like, that was actually like a part of like, they're like, yeah, no one really cares about you anymore, Andrew. Like
and it's like, bro.
He's like, you ain't the shit no more. Oh.
Yeah, Andrew's reaction to that one was funny.
So after that, they
you see them
like
kind
get
of
tangled.
like,
They even try like to work together at a point, but like it doesn't work out at first, and they just keep on
they're
getting
just
shit
completely
wrong.
out of sync. Yeah.
Which is kind of cool, but also whenever they finally go to the point where they're like, oh, like we're getting like fucked up, like Andrew's like, what the hell is going on out there, and all that stuff, like oh, like we're getting like we never worked as a team, and Toby's like, me neither, but I mean Toby did work with Harry for like a bit, but I guess it really wasn't a team
for like 10 minutes.
But so I guess it was just like kind of like instinct of all that stuff, but then
Tom's like, yo, I was up.
He's like, well,
I was on the Avengers. I was
the Avengers.
Toby's like, the Avengers? That's great.
What
is that?
You know, and then we kind of see like oh, it's like a band. Like no, it's not a band. And then we get a little Bully Maguire. How is this helping? God, dude, that was my favorite. That was one of my favorite scenes out of that movie. Dude, I was just like, oh, like look, okay. This is how it's at. I'm Peter 1, you're Peter 2, you're Peter 3. I was like, oh, okay, let's do this. So like,
yeah.
And then that little sense where I know I had heard that actually Andrew had improvised on that scene.
Yeah, he said, I love you guys. Andrew says it.
Yeah,
he says it to him. He says, I love you guys. And then Toby's like,
thanks. You. Yeah, thanks. And they're like, okay, let's get this. And freaking, again, like, dude, I cannot express how much I really love Andrew's character in this movie. They get suited up and everyone's like excited.
They
in the
mask
crowd.
up, bro, and
they go out. They're swinging together. Like,
they swing together, bro.
They jump off
all three of them together. Oh my! You've definitely seen that clip. If you watch the movie, you've seen this clip. You've probably seen it blown up like everywhere all over social media.
The scene where they stick the landing is actually my wallpaper on my phone. I love that. Look, I mean, it's right there. That's such a fucking amazing shot. But like the only thing I could really compare it to, as a nostalgic scene, is whenever the portals open in Endgame. Like, would you say like that was kind of like the mismatch of it? Like not the scene where Andrew and Toby come in, but that scene specifically is when everyone was like, oh, they're finally going to battle. Like that scene when Thanos' team and all the Avengers like go at each other. That was kind of like
when he finally fucking says Avengers assemble.
That's the nostalgic of that scene of all them swinging together.
Yeah, it's definitely the same like little effect.
No,
and there's only 3 of them. That's saying something. That you've got 3 Spider-Men over like a full cast of Avengers, and yet you get about the same feeling and reaction, like just that hype feeling from both of them, bro. It's what an insane like level.
I was just in love with that movie, and they finally go at it. They work on Sandman first, right?
Because that was their whole game plan. Was they were like, well, we can't be taking them all on at once. He was like, let's just all go for one of them at a time, and then that's how we'll do it. So they go after Sandman, and
then they go after the Lizard, and we see that I think they did that for a reason, because Sandman because I heard Sandman and the Lizard, their actual actors weren't in the movie.
No, it was all reused scenes. I think think they just did voices.
They did
a little. That was only a little bit. Like they did a little bit of
I think
re-recording.
it was the same actors, but they just gave the voices back and all that. Because we see that whenever Sandman they finally cure Sandman, but it's a scene from Spider-Man 3. And then I could definitely tell from like the fucking spot, and then they cure the lizard. It's the same exact scene from the Amazing Spider-Man.
Like flipped.
Just
literally just like mirrored.
It's funny to see that.
And then
they go after Electro, but they're actually having a little tough time with Electro.
Yeah, because Electro's got like this. He took the arc reactor.
Yeah, he took the arc reactor, so he got like super powered up with the help of that, and we see Doc Ock come because we haven't seen him in a while. And
basically Electro has Toby and Andrew like caught in this like electricity type thing, and he's holding them, and then Doc comes in and he grabs Toby.
He grabs both.
He grabs both of them like by the chest, and you're like, oh my god, we're about to get a duo villain team
for
up.
real. And then freaking Electro's like, I don't need your help. And then Doc's third arm goes to Electro.
Yeah, and he grabs his chest,
rips the arc reactor off, and puts the little electricity like capture on, and it just captures all his electricity.
Mm-hmm. So it takes all the electricity out of Electro. Then he lets go to Spider-Man, like just kind of plops him down safely.
Yeah, and then that's whenever.
And they're like, "Damn, Doc Ock's a good guy. Let's go."
Yeah, and then they have that little dialogue with Andrew and Max, and like, Max, you good? I was like, oh, I'm all tapped out.
That was funny. That's more foreshadowing right there, because Max is talking to Andrew, and he's like, I thought you were gonna be black.
He's like, oh.
And Andrew's like, sorry.
Sorry, but there's gotta be a black Spider-Man somewhere.
Yeah.
So, dude, that's Miles. Shout out Miles.
Shout out Miles Morales. This guy just pointed as if the camera was still. You are unbelievable, guy.
Sorry, I'm having like a little bit of a breakdown because that footage stopped, but we're gonna keep this going.
We're gonna keep this going. I can't believe we're almost at 2 hours.
We are almost at 2 hours.
This is crazy.
And we're almost done, actually.
Loki.
So whenever we get to that point, we see, they finally like reminisce about it, and then Doc Ock is holding the arc reactor in his hand. He's like, the power of the sun, and Toby comes in, the palm of your hand, and he's like, Peter, and
Peter. This is another one where it's a reflection of just the fans. Like it's like the essence of that Spider-Man talking to I guess Doc Ock's character is Spider-Man. Like Toby's Spider-Man, and then Toby's character is us, the fans, because Doc Ock is telling him, he's like, look, like you're all grown up, and so that's like just a little parallel to us, like we're all grown up, so we just watch that.
Like, how are you? He's like, and he says that iconic line, he's like, trying to do better, yeah. And dude, that was so nostalgic, like right there as well, like just to see.
It was just a little feel good moment that like they threw in.
Because we always knew that like all these other villains that Spider-Man goes up, like especially in these movies, they were doing it for the sole purpose because they were actually evil. I mean, I guess you could kind of say that like Doc Connors was kind of controlled by the lizard serum, but even at that, I think he really wanted it.
He just wanted like all that he saw was just like humanity needs to evolve, which I guess in some ways it does. He was just going about it the wrong way. And Doc Ock was actually.
Yeah, because he actually was just under control. But I mean, a lot of these villains actually were, but he was actually the most one that actually like really wasn't a bad guy. Mm-hmm. It just happened, unfortunate events that happened to him. And then as we see that, Doctor Strange actually comes out from the.
And then opens up another portal.
Yeah, and then Doc's like, "Did you open a portal?" Cool. He's like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." But then they finally get up, and Doc has the box. And he's like, "Oh, Doc, like, wait," and then all the other Spider-Men come in and be like, "You're the wizard." It was like, "We could have used your help." It's like, "No, like he's good." Like, it was kind of funny right there.
Yeah.
He's like, "Peter, I'm glad you got to meet like these new friends or whatever, but it's time to end this. Like, time for everyone to go home."
Yeah.
And then you hear.
Then you
Spider-Man come out to play. And dude, the thing was
I had totally forgotten about him.
Exactly.
That point in the movie.
Dude, I was like, okay.
I know.
Before they zoom in on Toby's face because Toby's like, I know
Toby
that
knows
voice.
exactly who that is. Yeah, he's
like,
having flashbacks.
No, I mean he's probably like tripping balls. Like they see that in the scene,
like,
he's just like, comes out, tries to steal it. Doc Ock trying to help
grabs the box from Doctor Strange.
And I think Spider-Man, Tom gets the box back, I think. Oh no, Doctor Strange gets the box back, but because Doc Ock is holding it, and then Goblin takes off Doc's arms, and he gets the box back, and Doctor Strange is about to turn it back, but everyone's just like.
And then you see it zooms in like really quickly, and all three Spider-Man's face. There's like
Andrew looks at Toby.
They're like, no,
Doc, wait. And
there was a pumpkin bomb. He put a bomb in the box.
Fucking universe fucking shatters,
bro.
Like, bro,
because that spell just breaks and now everything is reopening, bro.
Actually, wait, before even, well, it shatters for a bit, but then the whole statue starts to go apart.
Oh yeah.
And what happens? MJ starts to fall.
Oh.
And
my God.
Tom
MJ falls,
goes in,
Tom
right?
Goes for the dive.
Goes in for that straight dive. And they're like about to touch like fingertips, like, okay, easy dub. Goblin
snags Tom, just knocks him out of the way. Now MJ is still falling.
The crowd was like, no.
The crowd reaction, bro, just gasp, bro.
Yeah, and then, like, dude.
And then it was quiet, bro. Then they show Andrew's face,
like,
and it's
everyone knew what was going on. Everyone went crazy, saying like, redemption time, dude.
Then you see Andrew running, and then he just like
he just dives.
He takes a nose dive
down and grabs her, bro.
Catches her, snags, and then just brings her down.
I was like, oh my God! Talk about redemption, like redemption.
I was full on redemption. Andrew just drops down. He's still holding MJ, and he's just kind of looking at her, like kind of crying. He's like, "Are you okay?" And then she's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Are you okay?" And he's just like, dude, he's fighting the tears.
And that hurt. Like that went like in my heart.
That had to, but I know it felt like so good for him that like
he did something.
He couldn't do it, but he did it for essentially himself.
And then we see just like. I know everything's falling. We just see like an iconic like Toby just falling down.
That was crazy. That was a crazy shot. I'm not gonna.
That was a good ass shot.
Like,
and then we see the cloak actually saves Ned, right?
You see Sorcerer Ned.
And the sorcerer
for a hot second.
Think about it, and then everyone's saved, and then we finally get back to Tom and Goblin.
The shield like kind of falls off, and it's like on the edge, like because obviously it's the Statue of Liberty, so it's on the island. So it's kind of hanging off the edge of the island, a little bit going into the water, and then, it's flipped upside down. So
Tom
it's just like
breaks his glider, like he literally just rips his fucking.
So Tom's hanging onto the glider. He grabs a pumpkin bomb.
Yeah. And
he just like shoves it under them, like blows them both.
And they land on that shield, and everyone's just watching.
And it's the arena.
Dude, that's the arena. Final battle of the whole fucking movie.
Yeah. So
and that battle was, dude,
greatest like.
So I mean, like we've seen movies. Like Spider-Man movies where they use like their powers a lot of web slinging all the place. Like they jump around like CGI-esque, right? This was straight footage. Yeah. Like bro,
this was real hand to hand.
Bro, they were getting ready. They were knocking at each other. Like dude, Tom was pissed.
He was piecing the Goblin.
He was elite. He was doing all these combos, bro. You could tell how hard he wanted to punch him whenever he punched.
You could hear it.
Clean, like just the fist went through the fucking shield, like and that little. He whips out.
Oh, he does that jump.
He's like he whips out the
that blade.
The blade. He's like,
dude, that was the whistle, bro. I was like, God.
Dude, Goblin was waiting, bro, and keeps on going. But as we see, like, Tom gets the upper hand.
He webs him. He's punching the shit out of him.
And dude, he's just.
And he gets him down on his knees. Oh, he webs him. Yeah. And he gets him down on his knees, bro. And Tom's just wailing on his face. You hear like on that little bowl thing. You just hear the echo of that fist. That it almost sounded like a little bit of like a growl from like.
Bro, shit was fucking.
That was crazy,
bro. Whenever that happened, fucking.
Yeah. So he's just Tom's just pacing him. And then it
shows Andrew and Toby watching
for like a hot second. Yeah, they're watching
and they look at each other. Just like they nod at each other because they feel like
they know he's about to like slip.
Yeah. So then he grabs the glider.
Yeah. So then they show the feet. They see the glider, and all that you see is the glider like lift up, and you're like
dude,
no, because they show like the little sharp things of the glider, and you're like, ain't no way, bro.
As he fucking goes
Tom
down,
picks it up, bro, and he's about to slam it,
and then all behold, the Godfather of Spider-Man, Toby jumps in,
catches the glider, and he's
But like the face that Toby had, right? He didn't even have to say anything.
It was such like a father face.
It was like
that was just
like,
such
dude,
like a.
whenever I looked at him, I was like, damn, Toby's old.
It's like, yo.
As looking at it, I was just like he's like, come on, like you know you shouldn't do this.
Like, don't do it. And Tom's he kind of tries for a second. He tries to slam down. Even though Toby's holding it, he tries to slam down even harder, just hoping he can get through him.
Kind of see. I mean, is Toby stronger than Tom?
Leverage. look at the leverage. Toby was like on his knee. He had ground force. Tom, that was straight overhead. Like, nah.
I guess we could.
I think they're all equal.
I
think they're all equal. Ain't no way Toby.
Like you just had the biceps out.
He was
going.
overhanded. Nah, they're not. No one's stronger, bro. Chill.
So he throws it off, but then right when they get it off,
they put it down, bro, and then it's just Toby kind of stands there for like a second.
He's
smiling. He's kind of smiling like a dork for a hot second because.
And then you just hear a
sink, and then you see Toby's face change, and you're like,
I heard like 5 fucking girls screaming that.
Dude, literally.
Like no, dude, I was like,
I couldn't believe it. I was like,
no. I was about to start crying, bro. I was like, bro, they literally just fucking brought him in this movie just to kill him, bro.
Just to kill him.
What the fuck?
Oh my god.
And then he's like, oh, you were the one that made the final blow and all this stuff.
He says some
and
crazy
then
ass line.
Andrew throws the serum, cures, and Tom gets it, cures Goblin once and for all.
The shit out
and,
of his neck.
And he's like,
what did I do?
And he looks down and he sees like his Peter, and he's like, oh.
And he's like, yo, what?
Yeah,
I know he was tripping. He was like,
so that happens, everything's calmed down, and then then
Andrew pulls up and he,
and then,
no more Goblin, yeah.
And then like, are you okay? I was like,
bro. Like, I've been stabbed before.
So originally, Toby was supposed to die in the original script. Supposed to be like his little ending of, I guess, the Raimi universe, just to see like that, which would kind of suck to not die in your own universe, you know?
They had said Venom was supposed to be a part of that whole fight, and then when Toby died, the Venom symbiote was going to attach him, and then he was going to like revive. And that honestly would have been stupid. I'm so glad they didn't do that. Because just listening to that, was terrible.
I was like, what the fuck?
Bro, you also just seen what he just did.
That would have been crazy for just Toby to die in that, but they gotta be like, yeah, I've been stabbed before. And whenever that had happened, everyone was just like I guess like getting like recognizing with each other, and they're like, oh, like. I think he does he talk to Doctor Strange? Or
he tells him, he's like, I need to go fix this, and then he swings over to Doctor Strange, because meanwhile, Doctor Strange is like holding the universe together, because like,
he's fucking breathing
he's
back,
fixing all the cracks of the universe.
Bro.
Oh, you see the enemies.
Yeah.
You see, in the little cracks of space, you see like...
We don't just see enemies, we actually see different people.
You just see different people
see
that know Peter
everybody
Parker.
from like Spider-Verse that could possibly come into, and again, we don't have a clear shot of it, and I know people try to take a clear shot of it every time they go see the movie, but there's so much, and
only like 2 or 3 that are really obvious is you see Rhino, of course,
Kraven.
I think Rhino, Black Cat, that one's kind of obvious.
And you see this guy with tentacles.
It almost looks like Tarantula. A lot of people are saying Superior Spider-Man, but I'm like,
I don't know. Imagine if it actually was Superior Spider-Man. That'd be kind of dope, though. It would be a good storyline to come in with it. But also, that happens.
Oh, you see Scorpion too. You very obviously see Scorpion. You can tell by the tail.
Since we're at this part now, this is what I was reading earlier. So during the movie, the first spell they try and cast is that they don't want Peter to know his secret identity, right?
Yeah. But basically, Peter asks Strange, he's like, will it work if we do the spell right now? And Strange is like, nah, don't do, because I think now Doctor Strange feels for him. He like didn't care if people knew Peter Parker or not before, but now he's kind of like, nah. He's like,
no. But like the thing is that people would still know Peter that first one, but then he says, just instead of people, because he says like everyone that knows like Spider-Man and Peter Parker or something. He's like, well, just make it seem that no one knows Peter, just in general.
Make everyone forget Peter Parker.
Everyone forget what's like. Do you know what this means? Like no one will know you. Like even people that like will like say that like, oh, they just know Peter people that just know Spider-Man, no, they're just gonna know Spider-Man. They're not gonna know you. They're not, like,
yeah.
That's the whole world.
Basically, you're getting
so
like,
he's
wiped
like,
from existence.
well, I mean, it's just to save everything.
He said, but he's like, Doctor Strange is like, nah, like I can't do that. He's like, everyone's gonna forget, and then Peter's like, but it'll work though, right?
Yeah.
Doctor Strange is like, I mean, yeah.
So,
like,
that,
so
and
do it.
That's a growing up point right there, making a big boy decision.
That is a big,
grown ass man decision.
That's such a Spider-Man decision, honestly.
So whenever that had happened, Strange is like, nice to know when you're a kid and all this stuff. Then he says, he's like, thank you, sir. He's like, hey, call me Steven. And that's the last time we ever see the interaction of Spider-Man and Peter. Spider-Man and Strange. He goes down and talks to the guys like, hey, you guys are talking to Toby and Andrew like, hey, like, thank you for it. And this is a scene I actually talked to you about a while ago, actually.
The thank you?
I think the thank you was more than just
Tom.
like, thank you for helping me fight. It was Tom saying, thank you for...
It was more than Peter to Pete.
It was more actor to actor.
It was Tom to Toby and Andrew.
Thank you for giving me the trust to carry on this character. Thank you for showing me
what you guys have left behind, and now what I have.
And thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you, like again, I felt that I was like, yo, like this is like everything. Like he was like, I don't like. Yeah, I think he tried to like.
He doesn't because he doesn't actually say anything. All Peter ends up actually saying like that's just how we're interpreting. All he actually says is just like, thank you guys.
But then like Toby's like,
he's like, we know. He's like, we know.
And they all
hug, bro.
Dude, that's a great scene where they all hug.
That's where Spider-Man would not thought.
And there's actually a script written. Someone found the script saying, I think I sent it to you, right? Saying that that and as they don't go away as Spider-Man or like just
but as like brothers.
Yeah, as friends, but as brothers. That was like, wow.
That shit's deep.
That shit's deep as fuck, and that's kind of like, they go. He talks to MJ and Ned. He's like, hey,
bro, oh my god.
You guys are gonna forget.
One of the most heartbreaking scenes I've ever seen. Zendaya killed the shit out of that one, honestly. Zendaya killed that one. Tom's been killing it the whole movie. Kills that one.
Dude, the last handshake, bro.
Dude, as soon as I started it,
I was like, no!
No way.
Bro, I was like, oh man, this hitting everything is like, oh, you're gonna come find me.
Tom says his goodbyes to basically MJ and Ned. They can't believe it. They're like, nah, I'm not gonna forget you. Tom's like, don't worry though, like, I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna explain everything to you, like.
And then that final like big kiss and
then
they
kiss, of course, like
emotional kiss.
It wasn't forced whatsoever.
Yeah, and then they came out and then Tom, you just see him, he just leaps and he just swings away. And then we see everything go
Strange.
And then we just see the
Andrew just throws the peace sign to Toby, and then
they just dip.
They dip
and then cut back. I think it says 8 months, right? Or 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
8 weeks after the event. Is it 8? I think it was 8 weeks after the event.
It was not 8 months.
Yeah, I was saying that would have been a huge gap. 8 weeks after the event, and then they said that like no one remembers like the Mysterio thing. No one remembers the Peter thing. I think getting rid of Peter, they forgot about everything. They know Spider-Man is a thing, but they don't know anything that Peter had done and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it kind of like X'd out like everything. It kind of goes into like the whole time continuum type thing of everything that's going on.
Right.
Then we see snowing, quote unquote Christmas time, because this is, I guess you kind of say Spider-Man No Way Home is a Christmas movie. Towards the end, and then we finally see him go up to the coffee shop, and we see Ned and MJ.
Ned and MJ are in the coffee shop.
At a point, I thought it was gonna be like Ned and MJ were like together or something like that.
That's low key what I thought too, but
I was like, ain't no fucking way.
I know. I was like,
And then they come in, and he sees Ned over there, and then they kind of like saying like, "Oh, I'm Peter Parker." Like he has a whole thing like saying like
he's like rehearsing a line to say to MJ, basically explaining like everything that happened, like, "Oh, you knew me, but like you forgot me," all that shit. And then like when it comes to it, like he walks in and she's like, "Can I help you?" He's like, "My name is Peter Parker, and I would like a coffee," and that's all he says. And then she's like, okay,
Peter Parker.
Okay, Peter Parker.
So whenever that happens, we see like they're Ned and
Ned and MJ.
MJ talk about MIT for a bit, and they come over. He gives the card one. Peter Parker.
Yeah, Peter's just watching him, and you could see
he's just like, man,
he's like, damn, like they're at peace. Like,
yeah, like they don't have to deal with any of my problems. They don't do anything like that. I think that he's just like he's thinking about them as Peter Parker. Like I brought at the beginning, he's still thinking about them
the
as
whole
the main priority. And he says, "Is there anything else that you need?" I'm like, "No." Like he's talking about the scar that she has, and like, it doesn't hurt like anymore. And like I think that's whenever like that also is a deeper line. Where
yeah,
like,
dude,
right?
bro, yes, like
it doesn't hurt anymore. Like
because he's gone. Like,
yeah, like there's no hurt, and he's like, oh, like that. He's just like, you know what? Like, I think I'm just gonna do all this. Yeah. I was like, I'll see you around. And
yeah, so he puts a note away. That note that he had, he just puts it away in his pocket, and you're like, damn,
but then I feel like
do it.
I think MJ kind of like gets like a little sense like, dude, do I know this?
Yeah, guy? She's like maybe. Oh, because she says what she's been saying the whole movie.
Oh yeah.
If you like expect the worst kind of deal, like
or
you'll never be disappointed type thing, and then like she's starting to. Oh, he asked her about MIT. She's like, well, I never get my hopes up because like I don't want to be. And then he like finishes the line for her. And she's like,
damn.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and then he leaves, and then that was a really just hard part of just like leaving like his relationship with his friend and his girlfriend. So, and then he goes to Aunt May's grave, right?
Yeah, then you see him standing there, and
then Happy
pulls up.
And Happy's like, how did you know? And this is where we're kind of like seeing like I guess like what really goes on or whatever. Because he sees Peter. He's like, how'd you know? I was like, oh, because of Spider-Man. He's like, yeah, I knew it because of Spider-Man too. I was like, oh shit, so you know Spider-Man, but you don't know Peter. I guess it just wiped out of everyone's mind.
Literally,
it literally wiped out of everyone's mind. So there's really like you don't really have to plug in no plot holes, no nothing like that, and it kind of just works out towards it. And then we see that he moves into his apartment.
Such a rundown apartment, which is so Spider-Man style.
Yeah, exactly how it's supposed to be.
Classic Spider-Man style.
And then we see that he actually has he's unpacking, but he has like the little Lego figure.
He has Lego figure. He has the GED book. So
which also seems like again like dude, they probably got rid of all his records, bro. Like Peter.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, I'm like, how did he go get his stuff? Because that stuff was at Happy's apartment. You're telling me Happy watched this guy at the grave?
Unless some of the stuff was still left.
That's
at
what
the
I'm saying.
apartment,
So maybe you never know. Who cares? Who cares? That's not
a main point. And then he's just like, you know what? Time to like start my life, start over fresh, like no problems, all this stuff. But I could still be Spider-Man. And you see that kind of like a PS4-esque type Spider-Man.
Type intro, yeah.
He like looks at his phone. Sees like
looks at his phone. It's the crime reports. Yeah, like incident.
And then we do see like he's knitting like a Spider-Man suit.
Yeah. There's like a sewing machine, and it has like this really like light shiny blue material, like this red material, and you're like okay. You can see that it's like different than.
And then he whips out the phone, and then we see his leg.
Then you see the foot go up the window because he's about to jump out. He's about to go out the window.
And he goes out,
and you're like, okay.
And we see a light scene, and we see, ladies and gentlemen, the most beautiful,
the greatest suit,
greatest Spider-Man suit ever that has ever come to play. Oh my God, that is so comic accurate.
It looks just like
my fucking toy, bro.
Like this little doll right here, yeah.
Bro, like I'm so excited to see that Spider-Man.
I can't wait to like get that movie, just 4K. So I'm watching it, bro. I just want to see it like HD.
And we see him swinging around like the like his theme song. And then it just ends with his face zoom in, and that's how the movie ends. And then we get 3. This is magic number.
Yeah.
Overall, that ending is the new beginning for something that people just didn't expect. No one expected that movie. No one really expected what was gonna happen. But did the plot flow through with the movie? Like, did it really like go through with everything that it was supposed to go? Like, I know that like even like villains were supposed to know with each other. The reason I'm bringing this up is that because people should know who Peter Parker is, or who Spider-Man is, and they bring all these villains in, which brings me up to the mid-credit scene.
The mid-credit scene. God damn the mid-credit scene.
Oh, shit! We know!
We see a bar. We see
a dude.
It's definitely in like some kind of Spanish country. It looks Hispanic. You see a bar. You see the bartender talking to some guy. And then you hear the voice, and you're like,
Oh,
God damn,
yeah.
there he is.
Fucking
Camera pans down, Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy pops up, Eddie Brock,
and you
pops hear
up. And
Venom.
he's like, yeah, you hear Venom talking to him in his head, and he's like, so let me get this straight. Y'all talking about a purple guy and a Tin Man
all this,
duking it out to like save the world, and then the bartender's like, yeah,
and then you got some spider guy. Y'all been out for 5 years. Like, oh, my family we went away for 5 years. And like, okay, I'm sorry, but like you start like trying to get it together, and he's like, well,
he's like, what? He's like, okay. He's like, well, I guess I gotta go talk to this Spider-Man fella. And
but
then that's what you see. Then he started disappearing.
He's like, no, like we just got here.
We just got here.
And he just disappeared.
He disappears, and because that's at the same time that Doctor Strange fixed the spell and sent everyone back. Blah blah blah.
That was pretty tough.
And then it's like, so then you're sitting there like, that's it. Like Tom Hardy was that's what he was doing the whole time. He was there, and then he just dips, and then you're like, oh okay. And then the bartender is confused, right? It pans out, bartender's confused, like, yo, where the hell did this guy just go? Zoom in on the counter, and what do we see? We see
just a little drop.
Just a little drop of some black goo.
And
we're like, yo, okay. Then right before it cuts, bro, it just
moves.
Moves.
My.
Oh my god. So now Venom is officially in the MCU.
It's confirmed. That was the confirmation that we needed. We don't know how it's going to be put into the movie, but he's going to be in a Spider-Man movie. We just don't know when. Mm-hmm. And it opens up a whole bunch of other questions as well.
The post-credit scene, I mean...
It's just a Doctor Strange trailer. I mean,
has nothing to do with Spider-Man.
It's already out. The trailer's already out, so you guys could go watch it, get everything. I say for the Doctor Strange trailer, y'all do need to watch the What If episodes. And WandaVision, just to really understand again, like all these movies are connected as well. But
yeah,
greatest movie of superheroes so far, greatest MCU movie.
The greatest MCU movie, definitely. And it's almost to a point to where it's like unfair, because it's like, I mean, yeah, they brought in legacy characters, you know what I mean? Like they brought in Tobey and Andrew, but still, it's an MCU movie.
Like was it a great movie? Was it nostalgia? A little bit of both.
A little bit of both, yeah. A lot of fan service, but I mean, that's how you kind of have a great movie. Is obviously you have to give the fans ultimately what they want. You're not just going to give them a movie that they don't want. Otherwise, you get zero feedback. No one's going to watch that movie. So
we also actually giving a Spider-Man show on Disney Plus, also called Spider-Man Freshman Year.
We are, and it's going to be what, animated, right?
Yeah, it's animated, but I think it is based off of Tobey's Spider-Man.
Toby's?
Not Toby. Tom Spider-Man. That's Toby.
I said.
But I mean, I guess we'll see like a little bit of how.
So that's gonna be like the official origins.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see maybe an Uncle Ben.
We'll probably get a little.
But I doubt we'll say great power with great responsibility. If
he better not.
Yeah.
He better. You can't just say
it'll ruin the whole thing.
Yeah.
But we went through the whole movie.
We literally just recited the entire movie to you guys in 2 hours. Which is crazy.
That was a good ride because me and Brandon actually really enjoyed talking about this.
We've been talking about this for so long, and we finally got to record it, which is what we've been wanting
to. I guess before we kind of sign off, I guess there are some questions that we're just gonna leave the audience with. And we haven't done this before in any of the other past podcasts, but we would like to see what you guys think in the comments.
Yes.
Or any feedback if you can get in contact.
In the comments for. What are they going to comment on for this one?
Oh, shoot.
In our Instagram post, I guess? If we don't have a video...
At Let's Geek Pod
yeah.
on Instagram. If you guys could want
to DM us. Let's Talk a Geek Pod.
Yeah, at Let's Talk Geek Pod. If you guys want to come and DM us and talk about some questions, here we go. I say, what do y'all think relies on the future for Andrew and Tobey's Spider-Man? Because I know there have been a lot of petitions saying that they would like a Spider-Man 4 and the Amazing Spider-Man 3.
I only want Spider-Man 3.
I want Spider-Man 4 so bad.
I
want both.
I don't think they could.
They could definitely do it.
They could do it. I just don't.
During the whole what could possibly be next for Tom Holland's? I mean, we see Venom, but what could be next for him in the future of the Spider-Man 4 film? Because we also do know that Kevin Feige has announced that they are in early development.
They are already developing the story and everything. Yeah.
I say what happened between that whole like gap while Andrew and Toby were living their lives? Because you can definitely tell that they are older. I think these are just more questions between them.
It's more up for interpretation questions.
Exactly.
Oh, your own opinion on what you think.
What universe is Venom from? Because I feel like it's a Sony user. For a lot of people speculate that Andrew.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying Andrew, but you would think that they would know who their Spider-Man is in their universe. You know what I mean? And the only reason Venom got pulled into that is because they did confirm that even though Tom Hardy does not know Peter Parker, the Venoms do have a hive mind which spans across multiverses, which is why Venom, who was attached to Tom Hardy, was pulled into this universe. Just a little side note for those of y'all that maybe were confused about that.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people really needed that.
They were like, how did he... Yeah.
But we have all that. We're open to anything else that you guys would like to ask, that we would like to answer later on in other podcasts, and maybe just even answer on the side, just posting more on our social.
Any suggestions you guys have? Even topics that y'all want to hear us talk about?
We actually do have a few people that actually will hit me up personally that would actually like to hear different takes on just any type of other subjects. Again, we are open to anything that you guys would like for us to talk about regarding our geek world.
Which is everything pretty much.
Yeah, basically everything that we can really just geek on. We want to say thank y'all again for tuning in. If you guys have made it this far, this is our longest one, and this will probably be actually just our longest one because there was a lot that happened in this movie that we really had to break down between everything that made everything really nostalgic and really awesome for the movie overall to be this great for us. So we had to break it down into as much as anybody pieces too, but we did basically just do the whole fucking movie for you.
So if you were putting off watching the movie,
we already did it, but we do recommend you still go see it.
Still go watch it, please.
And again, thank y'all for the support that we're getting so far. Me and Brandon are doing great with this. We're we had a little.
We're having a lot of fun with this. We're still making little slip ups here and there, but it's a learning curve. We're definitely figuring out a lot more shit,
but we'll have our stuff completely undergo for everything. Again, I think the only apology that I actually do want to make is that we actually won't have footage for this one, so I'm truly sorry for this.
It's alright.
Maybe I'll post a little apology video about it, just so just people don't know and all that.
That's right.
But we'll make sure that everything is running and going. Again, that's not my fault, but the podcast is the talk is the main thing that we really wanted to get out, and the listen that we wanted to keep on going for y'all.
Yeah, which
so
we feel we've accomplished.
We've accomplished the main goal about it. So again, thank y'all so much, and we hope to see y'all next time. Again, I am Nene.
I have been Brandon.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes,
and
thank you for joining us on this long ride.
Very, very, very long podcast, and we will be hitting y'all with a new topic sometime very, very soon. Y'all have a great rest of the day, evening, night, and talk to y'all later.
Later.